All right, there you go, chat. If you are not wedded, I even got it uploaded to YouTube because people were like, Mike, you didn't upload to YouTube, and they cried like babies. Oh, we got it uploaded to YouTube. I hope you guys enjoy it. Well, I want to get a visualization. It's probably something similar to Chapo. And then, you know, maybe in the future I can convince them to go on camera, at least for some of our like interview episodes. I feel like the interview episodes, they might be visual. I don't know about just the crew episodes. Like, nah, that's, you know, who gives a shit? You know who we are. All right. Well, chat, welcome on in to the Central Committee stream with your host, Mike from PA. We are live once again. Just when I couldn't hate Elizabeth Warren more, I was like, fuck Elizabeth Warren. Primary Elizabeth Warren. I hate Elizabeth Warren. She goes and does this.
Endorsing Graham Plattner for Senate in Maine. And here's the reason why. Graham Plattner is the real deal. He's a fighter, and he's ready to take that fight to Washington. Graham actually knows hard work. He's an oyster farmer in Maine. Graham knows the consequences of Donald Trump sending our service members to fight endless wars in the Middle East. He's a combat veteran who was deployed in Iraq and Afghanistan, and he understands what's happening to working people when there's not someone in Washington fighting like hell for your. We've already seen it. Hospitals are closing down. Gas prices are up. Trump's illegal tariffs have made everything more expensive. And now we're at war with Iran. Oh, and God forbid you want to buy a home. Look, people are hurting, and people are ready to vote for someone who will actually fight for them. Not just nibble around the edges, not just wimp out at holding the rich and powerful accountable. Graham Plattner has the grit to go against the grain and to fight for what is right. And the people in Maine fired up and excited for change. You know what? That's the energy, that's the fighting spirit that the Democratic Party needs now more than ever. Graham Plattner can help us win back the Senate, and he can help us build a country that doesn't just work for a tiny sliver at the top, but a nation that works for workers.
So Elizabeth Warren, right after endorsing a terrible candidate in Michigan, has then turned and endorsed Graham Plattner. Now, this is why I hate Elizabeth Warren. This, ladies and gentlemen, why I hate Elizabeth Warren, because in a contested primary between a perfect candidate and a shit lib, and then a conservative Democrat, she picks the shit lib. And then, in order to try to give herself credit when it is a very good candidate versus like a centrist, she endorses the good candidate. So she's using you. She's like basically using Graham Plattner to get you to vote for a terrible candidate in Michigan, which pisses me the fuck off. She applauded bombing Iran. This is his response to the attack ads from Mills. Yes. And that's why, ladies and gentlemen, it's a very good thing for Graham Plattner. This is a very good thing for Graham Plattner. That being said, I don't like Elizabeth Warren at all, so there's that. The Democrats are actively, aggressively supporting a candidate who got a Nazi tattoo on his chest and bragged about it to people. All right, well, obviously this guy has to be a vote blue no matter who guy, right? Like, obviously he would not be a Nazi. Oh, women gang raped by 3 asylum seekers on Brighton Beach, breaks down in tears as she tells court her whole life has been ruined. Posting about how Gaza is doing really well, apparently. If there is one mall, which I don't even know if this is true, if there's one mall in an entire state, that means there's no genocide going on. I mean, the Nazi propaganda guy. Oof. Oof. These are the people that are allied with the liberals against Graham Plattner. So anyway, chat, make sure you go check out the reaction podcast with our buddies Yagopnik and Freda. Help it blow the fuck up. I would appreciate that. Thank you very much. Thoughts of having Tim Heidecker on the pod to shit on Bill Maher. That's a good idea. I already watched it, Michael. Well, good. Okay, what else did I want to say? The oil prices are fluctuating wildly. It was up to 120 earlier this morning, but it looks like it came off the spike. It is back down to, up $5 on the day. It was spiking like crazy up to 120. I think it got up to 119 or so. Gold is crashing. Gold and silver are crashing, as is platinum and palladium. Why would gold sell off as inflation would grip the market? Why does that? I thought gold was supposed to be a store of value. Why is it moving around like it's Bitcoin? Nothing makes any sense anymore. All the stories we used to tell ourselves about the economy doesn't make any sense anymore. It is literally just vibes. It is literally just vibes. All right, chat. Democrats got a private briefing. Democrats got a private briefing on the Epstein files, and Summer Lee was there, so I wanted to show you that. I'll be right back.
Of the Democratic on the House Oversight Committee are speaking now after listening to Attorney General Bondi talking about the Epstein files. Let's listen in.
To our lawful subpoena in a deposition. So instead, I asked Chairman Comer if he would compel her to come to our deposition. If she did not come, would he force her to, or if he would move for contempt hearings, as he did for other people who did not respond to our subpoena? Instead of answering as an adult, he said that I was bitching, which is, again, something that would not be allowed if we were operating under the rules of this committee, because engaging in personalities is actually something that we are not able to do. If C-SPAN and the public were there, I'd imagine that he would not act that way. Neither here nor there, we expected AG Bondi to be adversarial. We expected her to be confrontational. And we expected her to not offer us much information. But that's why I introduced impeachment articles, because she has already been obstructing justice. She has already weaponized the DOJ. She has already ended investigations into Trump and his allies. She has used this role essentially as one to help the president. She does not answer to the president. The DOJ does not have the right or the privilege of withholding information from an active investigation, ignoring the laws of our land, which the Epstein Transparency Act is, with our subpoena from last July is. And the oversight Dems will continue to press for accountability. We'll continue to press for justice for survivors while also keeping them centered in this. So at the end of the day, we are still here seeking answers for women, for girls, and for the American public who has demanded justice, who have demanded answers to this, and whether or not they will pretend that the documents that they've given us is enough, we already know that they have not complied, and we are asking other people to make sure that we do not let them off the hook right now. So we look forward to her on the record deposition with our committee in response to our lawful subpoena.
I'll say a few more things, and I'm going to open up for questions, and if anyone wants to answer the questions. So just as a review, I think it's very important. This fake hearing, we found out about it yesterday with no time to prepare, with no format given to us. We had no idea what the even format was going to be until just an hour or two before this kind of fake hearing that was set up. And it was clear from the minute it started that the Attorney General is trying to evade and not attend the mandated subpoena that is put in place. We asked her that question. Multiple members asked her the question. She would not respond. She said she'll continue to follow the law. That is not a response. She has a subpoena in place by Chairman Comer. If there's any questions, I'll take those now.
Aside from what else have you written about? Because I know you all said you had a lot of questions.
I'm going to let Congressman Lynch.
Yeah, and I support everything that's been said by my colleagues. Remember, our desire to get the Attorney General and Todd Blanche under oath is because we've been faced with lies from the very beginning. Go back to February 21st, 2025. Pam Bondi told us and told the public that the files, the Epstein file client list was on her desk. But then we found out that was a lie. Then she told us that on July 25th, 2025, she said there's no need for any more disclosure on any of these Epstein files. Then we found out later there's 6 million documents. They give us 3 million of those, and now we find that we can't get access to a lot of that information because it's so heavily redacted. And then finally, with much pressure from the court.
We're going to take a quick break from covering that press conference to bring in Democratic Congresswoman Melanie Stansbury of New Mexico, who serves on the House Oversight Committee. So, Congresswoman, your fellow Democrats seem pretty fired up. What happened behind closed doors?
Yeah, well, I just walked out of the briefing room, and what is absolutely clear is that Pam Bondi has no intention of complying with the law and the subpoena that we've issued for her to be deposed under oath in front of the committee. In fact, what appears to have happened is that she and Todd Blanche volunteered to come brief the committee, and so we walked in today ready to hear information that they would provide to us about what's going on with the Epstein File Transparency Act. And basically, they said, we've released what we're going to release, and now you can ask me questions. And there was no oath, there were no cameras, the American public were locked out of the room, and it was clear that they were not prepared to answer questions about compliance with the law. And so ultimately, after Chairman Comer insulted Summer Lee, who is the lead in many ways on the subpoena, both of Pam Bondi and the subpoena of the Epstein files, and basically was extraordinarily disrespectful towards her, the Democrats walked out of the room because we're not going to play their games.
So just to be clear, the Transparency Act about the Epstein files, that required all of the files to be released by, I think it was in December. And there's something like 6 million of them. About 3 million have been released, 3 million have not. Of the 3 million that were released, the only thing that was supposed to be redacted was the names and identifying information of survivors. But it is clear that a lot of stuff that was redacted that wasn't pertaining to the survivors was pertaining to the potential perpetrators, and survivor information was actually accidentally included. So they are not in compliance with the law, according to, as I understand the law. Is that right?
Absolutely. And not only are they not in compliance with the Epstein Files Transparency Act, they are not in compliance with a subpoena of the Epstein files. In fact, it's important to remember that going all the way back to August 5th, we subpoenaed the full unredacted Epstein files, and the administration has not even attempted to comply with that subpoena. And part of why we launched a bipartisan effort to change the law to force them through the Epstein File Transparency Act to comply with our subpoena is because they were not complying to begin with. Then they missed the deadline, the over-redacted, and Todd Blanche himself said today that basically they've released everything they're going to release. Well, that is not compliance with the law. In addition to that, I think what we were all shocked by today is that Pam Bondi was asked multiple times by my colleagues if she would comply with the subpoena for her own deposition under oath, and she refused to answer yes. So I think we can say very squarely that the cover-up continues.
So, Congresswoman, I believe we're here today because I think it was 4 or 5 Republicans on the Oversight Committee joined with all the Democrats to force Pam Bondi to come before the committee. Do the Republicans on the committee who joined you for that, are they with you in terms of the outrage you're obviously feeling about the fact that Bondi is not sitting for a deposition, and also the fact that the administration is not complying with the Epstein Transparency Act?
Well, I'll note that the subpoena for Pam Bondi to appear under oath was actually issued by Nancy Mace, who is a Republican from South Carolina. I did not see her in the room this afternoon. I don't know why, but I think it was clear that our colleagues across the aisle were running interference for Pam Bondi and Todd Blanche, asking them leading questions. And like I said, it was set up like a sham hearing, not a briefing. They did not come in with any new information. They did not provide any sworn statements. And it appeared that our colleagues were basically trying to say, hey, look, they showed up. And we are not going to accept that as compliance with the law, because the law is clear. We have subpoenaed them, we have subpoenaed the files, and we have passed a bipartisan Transparency Act, which the president signed himself, and they have not complied with the law.
How do you reconcile that, before you go? How do you reconcile the fact that Republicans overwhelmingly voted for the Transparency Act? The Senate voted for it, I think, on a voice vote, meaning everybody voted for it, everybody agreed. And the president signed it into law. They all made this public.
You know, this is a Politics Freaks channel because you would rather watch the actual presser than the news reacts. Yeah, because Jake Tapper is a fucking Nazi.
Display of supporting this transparency, but they're not doing it. How do you reconcile that?
Right. Well, I mean, My question is, how do they reconcile their own beliefs, their own values, their own morals, and their own politics with what the American people are demanding, including their oaths of office, which is that they follow the law themselves? So I think it's very clear the American people overwhelmingly are demanding justice for the survivors. They want accountability. They want perpetrators to be held accountable, and they can't run from that. And neither can the president. In fact, the questions are not going to end, whether it's questions about his own accusers, which have been covered up in the files, or it's the handling of this case. The American people are not going to let this go. And I think that my colleagues understand that, and that's why they have joined us on occasion to hold them accountable. But it is very clear that the Trump administration is doing everything that they can to run from this, and we are going to hold them accountable.
All right. Ladies and gentlemen, I have the funniest thing to say to all my Los Angeles girlies. In Philadelphia, in Philadelphia, they have 2 third-party members of the city council who are both DSA candidates. They're members of the Working Families Party, and they have now come out endorsed DSA endorsed state rep Chris Robb. And obviously this race in Philadelphia is going to be a very tough race because they are running against a Democratic establishment machine politician that every single Democrat machine scumbag is going to endorse. I'm 100,000% sure that Josh Shapiro is going to go maximal interference in this district. He's going to do everything he can to defeat the DSA candidate. Because right now, Summer Lee, socialist out of Pittsburgh, so Pittsburgh is represented by a socialist. And if Chris Robb gets in there, then one of Philadelphia's reps is now a so Philadelphia and Pittsburgh would both have socialist reps before Los Angeles, California has one. Think about that. Both Pittsburgh and Philly will have socialists before Los Angeles has one. Did I say Robe? I said Rab. It's Rab, right? Is it hard A? Is it Rabe? I thought it was Rab. Chris isn't a socialist, but okay. I mean, he's a DSA. He's DSA endorsed. And he's very good on a lot of shit. Iran attack wipes out 70% of Qatar's light natural gas or liquid natural gas capacity for 5 years. Wait a minute. Where'd you get that? Yeah, the Iranians are striking back and doing massive damage. I know it's stupid and off topic, but Alex Jones showed up on Tim Pool's podcast fucking sloshed, and it's hilarious. Oh, we got to do an Alex Jones episode, obviously. Philly Dems are scum? Yes, of course they are. Sadly, looks like Nithya is lining up to cook Ray. I don't know Nithya, but I heard she's like a Zionist. LA DSA is in trouble, folks. It's in trouble. Trump has killed America. It was already dying, but the chip out has put the cushion over its face. Fed Chair Jerome Powell gives the bad news. Oh, yeah, I saw. This was crazy. I saw this quote yesterday.
The thing that I think good number of people on the committee are concerned about is just the very, very low level of job creation. If you adjust what has been the trend job creation over the past, let's say, 6 months, if you adjust that for what we think, our staff thinks, is the overstatement due to overcounting, effectively there's zero net job creation in the private sector. The thing that I think...
So in other words, what's happening is we're not creating any jobs, but I guess enough people are being deported and dying that it's in balance. But don't worry, chat. They want to spend $200 billion in the Iran war. Just so you know, this is 3 years of college for all. 3 years of college for all paid. This would be, I think, somewhere in the range of 10,000 miles of high-speed rail. Maybe 5,000 in the U.S. You could go across. You could have a line that goes all the way across the country, and then another one that's up, Chicago. I'm all for a big tent, but the Democratic Party needs to draw a line in the sand. Hassan Piker and his fellow Jew haters belong on the other side. I'm not going to post this because I believe it, and I'm not going to say it. I'm just going to say it to you guys instead of posting it. The reality is that Bernie Sanders, AOC, and Hassan Piker are the most important thing that's keeping the Democratic Party alive. That's just a fact. If Bernie Sanders, Hassan Piker, and AOC and a bunch of left-wingers, just said fuck the Democrats and tried to start their own a third party, like if all the popular energizing people said fuck the Dems and left, and they built something new, it would destroy the Democratic Party. How do I know? Here's how I know. Look, that happened in the UK. That happened in the UK. The third wave people in the UK got their way. They threw out the left-wingers. What happened?
Great being Zach Balansky at the moment. When he became leader of the Greens last year, he inherited a party already riding pretty high. Under former leaders Adrian Ramsey and Carla Denyer, the Greens increased their seat share in the House of Commons from 1 to 4, and had stabilised their polling at just under 10%. Under Polanski's leadership, though, the Greens' membership has surged. They've beaten both Labour and Reform in a parliamentary
This, by the way, chat, this is the mentality of the people that are in DSA right now who are like, they're like, we don't need to do any electoral politics. That's stupid, bro. You're not going to get socialism for electoral politics. That's the mentality of those people. What they don't seem to understand is that 100,000 members is fucking nothing. We probably need at least 25 times that. When we have 2.5 million members, then we're cooking, okay? Then we're fucking cooking. But 100,000, that's fucking nothing.
Both Labour and Reform in a parliamentary by-election, taking them up to 5 seats, and are now polling in the high teens.
So one election win, and they went from 9-10% to 16-17%. One election.
But how did we get here? What's driven the Green surge, and could they rise even higher? Let's have a look. Prime Minister Keir Starmer has had a rough old time of it.
Prime Minister Karma. He's such a fucking loser. He's so fucking irrelevant that the AI is like, who, Omega lol?
National front, though, he's had success and even managed to stand out among Western allies as the leader that appeared closest to Trump. However, this closeness doesn't appear to have provided Starmer with many benefits and has only served to
AOC summer lead ticket? Oh, hell yeah, you're cooking. You're cooking with gas. You're cooking with gas.
Humiliate him further. In the latest edition of our magazine, we discussed the failure of this so-called Trump appeasement strategy and why it's only served to worsen Starmer's authority. That's just one of 72 pages in the magazine, because as always, there's more to too long than you'd expect. Purchase your copy by clicking the link in the description. Now, as we mentioned earlier, the Greens really are doing well at the moment. At this time last year, the Greens were averaging only about 7.5% in the polls, putting them in 5th place, behind Labour, Reform, the Conservatives and the Liberal Democrats. Since Zach Balansky took over as leader, the Greens have risen steadily and are now only a few points behind Labour and the Conservatives. Moreover, some polls actually put the Greens even higher than this, with the latest YouGov poll putting the Greens on 19%, tied in 2nd place with the Conservatives.
Oh boy, ladies and gentlemen, if it wasn't for boomers, and I mean this legitimately, if it wasn't for the motherfucking boomers, they are the only group that are holding Labor up and holding the Democrats up and holding up the worst opinions in America. What the fuck are boomers looking at? Like, we've got to figure out what the fuck boomers are looking at. Are they watching TV? Like, I legitimately do not know where their brains are formed. I mean, the ratings in mainstream media are fucking terrible. No one watches this shit. Not even boomers. Boomers love to spite the young for some reason. Here's my general feeling about how the boomers, I think boomers to me represent what happens to a generation when there is no social responsibility, no sense of something greater than yourself. They're what happened when you are treated like an infant for your entire life. And that generation gave us Ronald Reagan. Like, this is something, boomers have the best PR. Because people are like, oh yeah, man, boomers, they were protesting the Vietnam War and like, they were like, you know, they were doing like the civil rights movement. No, they fucking weren't. No, they fucking weren't. The Civil Rights Act was passed in 1965. The oldest boomers were 20. The oldest ones. They did not do the civil rights movement. That was the GI generation. That's who did it. World War II, the guys who won World War II, they also did the Civil Rights Acts. That's who did it. Okay? The boomers did not do the Civil Rights Acts. Okay? That's not true. When boomers started to pay attention to politics in their 30s and 40s, like millennials are now, they overwhelmingly went for Ronald Reagan and tax cuts. Boomers were in favor of the Vietnam War. The GI generation, the men and women who fought World War II, they were against the Vietnam War. Did you know that? The support for the Vietnam War, political support for the Vietnam War came from the boomer generation, not the GI generation. This is one of the things that people do not wrap their minds around. Boomers have always been right-wing since they were babies. They have been right-wing lunatics, and they have been a blight on this society. Now, I know there's a lot of good boomers in here. You are the good ones. I'm sorry for going after your generation. I'm just stating the facts, okay? And politically right now, boomers like conservatives, they like Israel, they like Donald Trump. That's a fucking fact.
While this poll caused quite a stir, with Farage and Zia Youssef actually attacking YouGov directly following the poll's publication, this isn't to say that it wasn't accurate.
It's easy and lazy to blame boomers, but I see a lot of Gen Z espousing hard right ideology regardless if they don't understand what they're parroting. If you go and look at the evidence, there's no generation that's 100% good. There's conservative millennials too. But if you look at the numbers, Gen Z is significantly to the left of baby boomers. They're not as good as we are. Like the millennial generation is the most left-wing generation probably in American history. But Zoomers are not that bad. Honestly, if you look at them, they're maybe a couple points more conservative than us. It's pretty much on par. There was a short spurt where young men in America flirted with the right and it made the numbers a little bit more skewed. But that has fallen off a cliff. Millennial men are not fucking with Donald Trump and Gen Z men. Gen Z honestly gets a bad rap, honestly. Not that bad. They're not as good as the millennials, but they're not bad. You want to know what the worst generation is? It's Gen X. Don't even get me started. They have the worst politics of any generation, which is insane. And you know me. Okay, I wanted to. I have that one tracking poll, Civ Q's S, which I fucking love. This is such a good. If you want to like have insights into various groups, you need to have a basis for it, right? So 50 to 64-year-olds is the youngest boomers and Gen X. Okay, I think the youngest. What did the boomer generation end? What is the baby boomer generation birth years? I think it's 45 to 64. Okay, yeah, 46 to 64. So the oldest boomers or the youngest boomers, excuse me, are what, 62? So there's a little bit of baby boomer in here. But look at what they think of Donald Trump. It has white in there. Let me delete white. Let's get all boomers. Wait, why are you forcing me to look at white? Why can't I get rid of white? The fuck? Why can't I get rid of white? Okay, thank God. Jesus. That's what a lot of people have asked over the years. Okay, so this is roughly the baby boomer generation right here. Gen X is started to, oh my God, Donald Trump is fucking cooked. 1965 to 1980 is the Gen X generation, or 79, depending, right? So they're currently 46. 46 is the youngest Gen X. So a little bit of them. So the generations aren't perfectly encapsulated by these categories, but this is roughly Gen X, and they're disapproving of Trump. Holy shit, is he cooked? Holy shit, is he cooked? If Gen X doesn't like him, oh, he's fucking cooked. This is millennials and some Gen X. 35 to 49 is some millennials and some Gen X. We'll take a look what they think of Donald Trump. What the fuck? Why are you breaking? What's going on? The fuck? Come on. Come on, man. Stop breaking. I am the only 50-year-old socialist among the people I went to school with. Oh, the thing about Gen X is they were able to live. Oh, I mean, look at this. Oh, this is white female college graduates. Okay. They don't like Donald Trump. White female college graduates do not like Donald Trump. Female college graduates really hate Trump. If you're a woman and you got a college degree, you think Donald Trump is a piece of shit, unless you're white and from the South. That's pretty much roughly what you could say. All right. Look at the millennial approval of Donald Trump. Look at millennial approval. This is a little bit of Gen X and millennials. Older millennials. Bro, now we'll do a little bit of Gen Z and millennials. So who's better? So now remember, there's a lot of millennials in 18 to 34 right now. So this is like half millennials, half Gen Z. This is like half millennials, half Gen X. Let's just say that our generations are pretty good. All right. Like the bad generation. And funnily enough, boomers, like 65 plus is only boomers at currently. They're at 51% disapprove, 46% approve of Donald Trump. And Gen X at a little bit of boomers is 50% disapprove. So Gen X is the most pro-Trump generation. That's what I was trying to explain. Boomers are second most. They call Hassan a Jew hater. Yeah, I know. I read this. I was thinking about, why the fuck is this chart the worst chart I've ever seen? Who designed this chart? This is the worst chart I've ever seen. Why are 2/3 of the space white and empty? YouGov. This is a chart crime. I can't see anything. Someone help me. That's my reaction to that. That's my reaction to that. It's like Jew haters. You think I'm a Jew hater? You think me? You think Mike from PA is a Jew hater? You think Hassan Piker is a Jew hater? Nobody thinks we're actually Jew haters. Nobody actually thinks that. No one actually thinks that. They just say that because they're trying to, they don't like us and they can't argue a point that we make. So they throw shit on us so that people that don't know who we are never listen to what we have to say in the first place. But no one actually thinks I'm a Jew hater or I'm a bigot in any way. They don't actually think that. They're just mad. They're just mad that my platform is bigger than theirs. That's usually what it comes down to. And they have no principled disagreement with me on anything, right? Like, because they aren't principled. They just want my platform, you know. I noticed they don't use the word anti-Semitism anymore. They use the word Jew hater. It's very funny. I don't hate Jews because, you know, like that's just ridiculous. You know what I hate? Zionists. And most Zionists are Christian. And I've been hating those motherfuckers for a long time because most of those guys are also anti-gay marriage, anti-abortion, anti-public schools, anti-public transit, anti-renewable energy, anti-tax cuts, or anti-taxing the rich, anti-peaceful foreign policy. I've been hating these motherfuckers for a very long time because also supporting Zionism is just one issue in a long list of terrible policies they have. Another Duger child got arrested for child sex crimes because Southern evangelical Protestantism is full of fucking grifters. They must have been getting tired of being told Palestinians are Semites too. Yeah. U.S. may unsanction Iranian oil to ease pressure from U.S.-Israeli war royally. What? Oh my God, dude. Holy shit. This is so funny. Another 200 billion for Israel. Oh, I said this the other day. I said this last night. Let me find a tweet. Oh yeah. Israel, out of anger for what has taken place in the Middle East. You attacked them, you dumb fuck! You attacked them, you dumb piece of shit! Has violently lashed out at a major facility known as South Pars gas field in Iran. A relatively small section of the whole has been hit. The United States knew nothing about this particular attack, and the country of Qatar was in no way, shape, or form involved with it, or did it have any idea that it was going to happen. Unfortunately, Iran did not know this, or any of the pertinent facts pertaining to the South Pars attack, and unjustifiably and unfairly attacked a portion of Qatar's LNG gas facility. Oh, wow. I can't believe how unfair Iran is being by attacking America's allies after America assassinated their fucking leader and bombed their country, killing 200 little girls at an elementary school. Reports of a possible ballistic missile impact and fire now burning at the Haifa oil refinery in northern Israel following the latest missile attack by Iran. I mean, if it was me, again, as I said, if it were me, if I'm putting on the hat of Mike, you know, pretend we have a new video game called Iran Defense, and you are playing that new video game of Iran Defense, what would you do? Well, first of all, I would have mined the Strait the first time they bombed the nuclear facility. I would have mined the Strait immediately, and then I would have done an all-out proxy attack on every single piece of energy infrastructure in Israel. I would have gone nuclear right off the bat. The moment you cross into my airspace, that's war. The moment you assassinate anybody in my country, that's a war. Like you're in a war now. We're in a war now. but that's because I am an insane a hardliner. And let me just say this, like, this is just the beginning. This is just the beginning. I mean, Israel has been aggressively attacking for years and years while doing a genocide. And Iran hung back and tried to do diplomacy. Iran hung back and telegraphed their responses. Iran, see, the problem that Iran had, and this is a problem that Chinese people have as well, is they believe that the United States thinks they're human beings. They believe they're engaging in this thing between equals. Like, they see themselves as an equal to, like, an Iranian thinks of a, you know, many Iranians think of themselves as white in this country. Like, they have this self-perception that they're part of the group of people that is being treated like human beings, and we're having diplomacy and it's back and forth and rational actors. And I need you to understand that that's not true. Westerners are supremacists. White people are supremacists. They do not believe you are equal to them. I need you to understand this. Now, when I say white people, I don't mean all white people, every single person who's considered white. I'm talking about our governments. I'm talking about Western governments. Western governments are supremacist governments. America says that we are an exceptional nation. That is a supremacist idea. It means Americans are superior. Why? Because of the essence of our country, the exceptional nature of our country. We don't have to follow the rules. We are better than you. We murder you. It's justified. If you retaliate, that's a crime. That's the way we think. And the only way to be treated with respect by Americans is to be a threat. That's the only way. I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but if infrastructure like this gets blown up, as of this moment, it will take at least a decade to recover from this war. The truth is that the world's energy picture has probably changed forever. This single facility produced roughly 20% of the global liquid natural gas supply, and as of 2011 had taken $70 billion to build. What makes this even worse is that Iran's strike on this was a retaliation after Israel attacked their South Pars gas field, which draws from the same natural gas reservoir, which is the world's largest by far. Heck, on this list of the 25 largest natural gas fields, this single reservoir holds roughly 40% of their combined recoverable reserves. It's nearly 6 times bigger than the second biggest field in the world. And unlike many of the others on this list, it's only at 10% depletion, meaning 90% of the gas is still there. Which means that probably for many years, a huge share of the gas from the world's largest reservoirs simply won't be extractable, as infrastructure on both sides, Qatar's and Iran's, has now been blown up. From an energy supplies perspective, we're in a deep worst case scenario territory. Now, I don't agree with this. By the way, I don't think he's right. I don't think we're in the worst case scenario yet. But we're getting there. I think that we're getting there. We're basically at the situation where Qatar declares the Iranian embassy's military and security attaches as persona non grata after Ras Lafad attack. Oh, wait. Now you're declaring people persona non grata? Oh, wow. Israel, though, can fly over your airspace without getting shot down. America can fly over your airspace without getting shot down. Suddenly, you figured it out. If you're one of these people and if you want to understand why is Iran attacking these Arab countries, they're not involved in the war. Yes, they are. If you give somebody transit access through your country to attack a third party, military transit access, you are aiding that country. You are a party to the attack. That's how it works. You have sovereignty. Neutral parties. You know what Switzerland used to do in World War II? Switzerland would shoot down Nazi planes that flew over their airspace. They would shoot down Allied planes that flew over their airspace. Let's say a bomber got damaged and it had an emergency, it needed to land, and they would go to Switzerland and they would be arrested, because that's what neutrality means. Neutrality means nobody from either side can come into our territory. That's what being neutral is. Qatar is not neutral. Saudi Arabia is not neutral. Iraq is not neutral. They are helping attack Iran. That's what's happening. They're not neutral. Do you think American partners in Asia like Japan and Korea will be forced to deal with more from China for energy? Or do you think that dynamic is too similar to Europe's behavior with China? I kind of feel like the war in Iran is kind of making me into a massive conspiracy theorist. I got to be honest with you, because like China is investing in all these technology to make fossil fuels irrelevant. Like China is investing hundreds of billions of dollars to make us not need fossil fuels anymore. They're investing in nuclear power, fourth and now fifth generation highly advanced fission reactors. They're investing tens of billions of dollars in fusion. They're investing hundreds of billions of dollars in renewable energy and battery technology. They are investing tens of billions of dollars in transmission technology so that you can transmit electricity without losses across thousands of miles. They're basically making a world where we don't need fossil fuels anymore. Now, unfortunately, right now, they're in a transition, right? They still need fossil fuels right now, but they're working as hard as they can, as fast as they can to get off fossil fuels. So this is the last moment where our world is truly vulnerable to this shit. Because another 10, 15 years, and China will not need fossil fuels anywhere near the level they do now. They will not be vulnerable at all. And when they have that technology, they're going to sell it to the rest of the world. And so many places that have bad electrical grids that can't develop are going to have really good electrical grids because China's technology is going to be so advanced that everybody's going to be able to individually create their own highly reliable microgrid. You won't even need to have a massive grid. Now you should, because a massive grid is going to be, give you more capability for things like industry, right? And allow you to do even more sci-fi fucking sounding shit. If you have basically free electricity, do you understand that alchemy is real? Like, do you understand that if you have enough electricity, you could start manipulating stuff at the atomic level easily? You can extract gold bars out of the ocean water. You can start doing insane shit like that. People don't even really understand. If you have enough electricity, the more power you have, the more energy you have, the more insane shit you can do. And anyway, I'm sorry, I don't want to get off on a sci-fi thing. It's not even sci-fi. The reason why we don't do a lot of stuff is because electricity is too expensive to do it. The lower you make electricity price per watt, the more crazy shit you can do. An F-35 has made an emergency landing at a U.S. base after it was struck by what was believed to be Iranian fire. Stupid, bro. They're so fucking stupid. Jesus Christ. Fucking unbelievable. They're so fucking stupid. It's unbelievable. Oh, hold on.
And a rare rebuke of Israel from two sources.
I want this. Okay, so Iran is now people are beginning to suspect that the mining of the Strait of Hormuz is imminent.
Tell CNN that Iran began laying mines in the strait last week. There are several different kinds of mines in Iran's arsenal.
My God.
A drifting mine floats on top of the water.
Qatar Energy has said, Qatar Energy CEO tells Reuters we may have to declare force majeure on long-term contracts for up to 5 years for LNG supplies to Italy, Belgium, Korea, and China. I mean, oil and gas prices are really not reacting to that. I mean, they are at a 52-week high, but they're pretty much flat for the day. Up a little bit, but not that much. January new home sales plunged to the lowest level since 2022. So this is the perfect storm right now, chat, which is because a lot of people were able to buy their home and refinance at a low interest rate, they have golden handcuffs. However, if a lot of people start losing their jobs and they're not able to pay their mortgage and they get foreclosed on, they're not going to be able to sell their house. Sales of newly built homes in January were 11.3% lower than January 2025. The median price of a home sold in January was $400,500, a decline of 6.8% year over year. Also, the quality of homes being built today is very low and very poor.
Two sources tell CNN that Iran began laying mines in the strait last week. There are several different kinds of mines in Iran's arsenal. A drifting mine floats on top of the water, drifting with the current, and it detonates on contact with a ship. A moored mine is similar, but is anchored to the seabed by a cable. It also detonates when a ship's hull hits it. And there's also the seabed mine or bottom mine. It sits on the sea floor, and it uses sensors like magnets and acoustics to determine the location of a ship. These use a much larger amount of explosives, causing an even bigger detonation. Iran has also what are called limpet mines. These are smaller and are placed on a vessel by a diver, and they explode after a set amount of time. So the goal is usually to target the underwater gear of a ship. According to estimates by the Defense Intelligence Agency, Iran has about 5,000 naval mines, which is part of what makes the waterway so extremely dangerous for ships.
And this doesn't even mention the new technology that was also displayed by China if you were paying attention to the Chinese military parade, the victory parade over fascism, China victory parade over fascism. If you looked at the Chinese victory parade over fascism from last year,
of the Guard of Honor of
hold on, let me. Some of the equipment they showed. Hold on. Yeah. Okay, so it wasn't the hypersonic missiles.
Among the equipment support formation are light repair vehicles.
Combat.
Oh, here we go.
The Unmanned Maritime Combat Formation.
And removal and squad assistance. They can be operated remotely and are able to move independently, work flexibly in groups, and make intelligent maneuvers. With them, the Army can make coordinated operations between manned and unmanned forces.
Now approaching is the Unmanned Maritime Combat Formation. Being revealed now are new types of unmanned underwater vehicles and unmanned surface vehicles, as well as underwater mine deployment systems.
So that's what I wanted to talk about. Like, they have these underwater, they have these drones, these submersibles. So these could be underwater mine deployment vehicles and drone combatants. So like the United States is struggling with fucking Iran. Do you understand what fighting China would be like? Do you like, I don't think people understand how badly we would lose the war against China. It would be such a fucking wake-up call. Can you imagine 4 or 5 aircraft carriers getting sunk within like a month? Losing like 270,000 Americans in like a month? So like, she's showing you animations of technology that's like old as fuck.
CNN senior international correspondent Ivan Watson is at a busy shipping lane in Hong Kong with more on the story.
Hey, Sarah, I want to show the viewers some of the kinds of ships that are involved in this war around Iran. This is an LPG tanker that was...
I wouldn't... Okay, he's in Hong Kong. Okay. Holy shit, I would be like, holy fuck, I would not stand that close to a tanker in the Middle East right now. Holy shit. Then I saw he was in Hong Kong. And I was like, oh my God.
In the Gulf in February and actually made it out through the Strait of Hormuz before the war broke out. Many ships like this are trapped in there right now and threatened by Iran if they try to navigate the narrow Strait of Hormuz. A ship like this is longer than a football field. It's worth tens of millions of dollars without its cargo. And there have been at least 16 suspected attacks on commercial shipping in the Gulf and the Strait of Hormuz since the breakout of the war. And Iran has threatened more attacks. The Speaker of the Iranian parliament putting out this statement, quote, "The Strait of Hormuz situation won't return to its pre-war status. We've seen tankers hit by underwater vehicles off the coast of Iraq, those attacks claimed by Iran. A cargo ship from Thailand hit last week in the Strait of Hormuz. 3 of its Thai crew members still missing. A tanker ship off the coast of the UAE hit Monday while it was anchored. So ships like this have been targets. And while the Trump administration is talking about possible escorts for them, look how big and vulnerable they are and easy to hit with something like a drone or a sea mine or a missile. Difficult to do in a narrow channel like the Strait of Hormuz, where you could only get seconds warning before the launch of one of these weapons. No country has volunteered to help the U.S. police the Strait of Hormuz.
What would you do? What the fuck would you do? Okay, I need to explain something to everybody. In the Iraq War, many of you are not old. How many of you were old enough to remember 2005, 2004? It's all right if you were a child. Just admit to being a child, okay? Like if you were not paying attention to combat in 2005. Okay, many of you do. Many of you are older. But so let me remind you, to the older people in the chat and the young, and explain something to the younger people. You know what the U.S. military used to do in Iraq? They would do patrols and they would drive around in unarmored Humvees, and the insurgents would place roadside bombs, and they would wait, and then they would detonate the roadside bombs as the patrols were driving around looking for insurgents. So tens of thousands of Americans were killed or maimed in these pointless patrols where they were just driving around in fucking circles. That's what they want us to do, but with ships. Let's just sail through the Strait of Hormuz, and what'll happen? Drones will come in, but undersea and aerial drones. Mines will fucking blow up. Even fucking artillery. You don't even need to have advanced equipment. You just put an anti-tank artillery piece and you shoot it. It's a fucking direct fire shot. You don't even need to do anything. You can see them. The Strait of Hormuz could be held by a fucking black powder cannon.
Instead, Iran is trying to impose conditions, suggesting that there are countries negotiating with it to allow safe passage of ships if they pay for their oil with Chinese currency. India and Pakistan have both gotten ships out in the last week. We saw a ship from Hong Kong go in.
Yes, because Iran let them go. Iran let them go. They said, you can go, and they let them leave because they're not part of this war.
In the last week. So Iran is threatening ships like this and trying to impose.
We've seen it in Ukraine. Small remote-controlled boats hit at the waterline and take huge ships down. Exactly. The Black Sea Fleet has largely been neutralized because of small drone ships. You don't think that Iran can pull that off? By the way, the only reason that the United States has not definitively lost this war is because China doesn't have an interest in getting these oil supplies cut off. That is the only reason the United States is not in serious fucking trouble. The entire world is being held up by Xi Jinping saying to the Iranians, we will help you, but please do not completely close the strait and crash the economy because we depend on your oil for our country as well. So please don't do that. That's the only fucking reason.
Those conditions, and as long as ships like this can't go through, expect the prices at the gas tank, the prices for things like plane tickets to stay high, because that's 20% of the world's oil trapped inside the Gulf right now.
All right, with us now, retired U.S. Army Brigadier General Steve Anderson, also former U.S. Ambassador to NATO Kurt Volker. This is a live look at the traffic through the Strait of Hormuz. Really not much traffic at all. Very few ships going through. And Ambassador, the president very publicly asked NATO for help. Here's a map of all the NATO countries. All the NATO countries from Canada to every one of the countries in Europe basically said no, they're not going to help the U.S. in the Strait of Hormuz. So what went wrong here, Ambassador?
Well, there are several things. First off, the conditions were not set to make this an allied operation or to bring Europeans on board. They were blindsided when the U.S. intervened.
Honestly, chat, my spidey sense just tingled. What if the CIA assassinated Trump? My spidey senses are starting to tingle because J.D. Vance has been silent and quiet. And while there are a lot of CIA agents who are Israeli Zionist puppets, there has got to be at least some portion of them who are at least patriots for America and recognize that what's happening is bad for America. I can't imagine every single one of them is an Israeli spy. I find that unlikely because what Donald Trump is doing is he's allowing America to be led around by the nose by the Israelis. Joining former General Vice Chief of Staff of NATO talking about the Strait of Hormuz. Okay. We have 5 reasons to say no to him. Actually, 5. The first one is that he hasn't understood if he wants a NATO operation that NATO takes command. There will be an American general, but it isn't a single operation. You can't have an American operation bombing everything in sight and below or beside it a European operation doing something else. No. It's a single operation. That means you put your operation under the NATO flag. I'm not sure he understood that. The second reason is that to do this, NATO will need to agree So in fact, it's up to the Americans to put on the table our desired end state and our strategic objectives. Opening the Strait of Hormuz is already an objective. Yes, but he needs to do it for the entire operation, because we're not going to enter something where they just tell us that and the rest isn't our problem. You can't run an operation on Hormuz with surprises every morning of stealth bombers flying around. No, that's not how it works. You work with the Americans for years. You were at the heart of NATO. You're the Frenchman who held the highest rank in NATO's operational chain. If your old American general buddies came to say, help us, it's crucial for the world to free this strait now, what would you tell them? I'd say, we'll come to an agreement. But you tell us in writing what we're committing to. What is your objective? Then we discuss. You tell us what you want, and we discuss. Not tweets, not things that change every 2 minutes. So first, Trump himself will need to know what he wants. And if NATO wanted to do this now, it should have started 2 months ago. It was 2 months ago. He should have told us, even in secret, NATO can keep secrets. Guys, end of February, I'm starting something big. It would help if we were prepared. You see what I mean? We would have agreed in secret. That's possible. The third reason to tell him to get lost. It's not really a question of means for the Strait of Hormuz. He wants us to share the political risk. He himself says he doesn't need 4 more frigates. He doesn't need 1,000 more soldiers on the Strait of Hormuz. So in reality, he wants us to share the political risk, not the military risk. There are still some capacities, if I understand correctly, that the French has, notably minesweepers, etc. There's still mines, yes, but for now, deploy mines. So the issue isn't really the mines, it's the drones, it's the direct fire. That's what I was saying just 5 seconds ago. That's what I was just saying 5 minutes ago. The Strait of Hormuz, it's not just drones or mines. They could shoot you with a fucking cannon. I was just saying that. Keep it brief. The fourth issue is the question of trust. This is a guy who abandoned the Afghans. He'll drop us the minute it suits him, right when we're in the middle of an operation. The fifth reason is that on the Titanic, the captain apparently tried to sell cheap tickets for the dinner dance after hitting the iceberg. Are we really there in your view? Is the operation really the Titanic? Yes, it's possible. So this isn't the time to buy a promo ticket for the Titanic. And the last argument, an American one, don't reinforce failure. I learned that at the American War College. Don't reinforce failure. If you find something else, you go elsewhere. You don't reinforce failure. So there are plenty of reasons to say no. This is probably the most pro-American Frenchman that exists. And he's like, tell them to go fuck themselves. He looks like a French Mike Pence, for fuck's sake. A poll just came out, chat, of major European countries. And they were asked, is it better to depend on China or the United States under Donald Trump? Canada, 57% China, 23% Trump, 20 don't know. Germany, 40% China, 24% Trump, 36% don't know. France, 34% China, 25% Trump, 40% don't know. The United Kingdom, 42% China, 34% US, 24% don't know. Every single major American ally, plus Canada, is now saying we would rather trust China. And one of the things that's really interesting is 1/4 of humanity and a little bit more in the English-speaking world are fascist. This is just the share of the population that are fascists. Literally. Holy Toledo, chat. We need a Holy Toledo emote, honestly.
I would say that this is the most troublesome sign that I have seen for the President of the United States and the Republican Party so far. What are we talking about? Well, let's take a look here. Voters on Trump and the cost of living. You go back when he was reelected back in October of 2024. He was beating Kamala Harris by 3 points on the cost of living, right? Look at his net approval rating now. Woo! Down underwater we go. His net approval at a record low, 41 points below water. You can't win when you're at 41 points below water on the cost of living. Kamala Harris couldn't win. The Democratic Party couldn't win. And I'm here to tell you that there's a better chance that I root for the New York Yankees than Donald Trump and the Republican Party winning when he's 41 points below water.
This was March 12th to March 16th. We could see even more, gas prices rise and prices go up in the coming days and weeks with the Iran war. So this number could get even worse. What about independence?
Yeah, what about independence? You think this 41 points below water is bad? Take a look at independence. It's even worse. I mean, 60 points underwater when it comes to Trump and the cost of living among independents. Again, a record low. You go back to October of 2024. He was winning on this issue over Kamala Harris by 11 points. Look at that switcheroo. That is a 71-point switcheroo in the wrong direction for Donald Trump when we're coming to the cost of living and independence. And this, my dear friends, is just a political nightmare waiting to happen for the Republican Party come the midterm election.
I mean, why? Do people really care about the cost of living?
You know, yes, they do, Mr. Berman. They do care about the cost of living. Why was Donald Trump reelected back in 2024? It was the cost of living. It was the number one issue, okay? Number one issue, top election issue, cost of living. 38% of Americans said it was so back in October of 2024. Look now, it's the same percentage. If anything, it's a point higher, though it's within the margin of error. 39%. Simply put, I am saying this loud and proud. You cannot win an election when you are the incumbent party and the top issue is the cost of living and you're the president of the United States and your net approval rating on it is 41 points underwater. I mean, you're with Greg Louganis at this point, and with independents 60 points underwater. What, are you kidding me? You cannot win. If you're the president and you're the Republican Party and you're not addressing this issue, wave adios amigos, goodbye, see you later, your House majority, and may very well be your Senate majority as well.
You're saying it loud, which is very unusual for you.
I know,
Harry.
it's extremely unusual. A lot of coffee this morning.
Let's talk about inflation and what the prediction markets are saying, what direction they see it going forward.
Yeah, okay, you talk about 60 points underwater, you talk about 41 points underwater overall. You know, when we're talking about what the prediction markets, Kalshi prediction markets have, Chance March's CPI year over year is above February's 2.4%. It's going in the wrong direction. 95% chance that inflation rises in the month of March. So you got the number one issue that is killing the incumbent party, killing the president right now, and it is going in the wrong direction with gas prices going higher. Just, you know, I'm just going to lay back on my Yiddish. Oy vey.
Yeah, no, the political cost of this could be going up soon. Harriet, and thank you very much for this.
Thank you. I'm going to go get some more cappuccino right now.
You need it, clearly.
I know.
Oy vey. I wonder why we're having such price spikes.
They had not done any work to prepare their publics. There was no discussion with them about what a mission would be, what they would do. So they've been flat-footed here. I think they should try to display a little bit more positive attitude. But then the second factor here is that an escort operation is not going to solve the problem, and they know that. And that's what your report just highlighted. It takes a very small effort on the part of Iran to deny access to the Strait of Hormuz through all of those mechanisms that your report described, as well as sea drones, which is another one that they're also able to develop and use. So the escort mission is not the thing. And if I can just add one more point here, the fundamental choice for President Trump is to decide, do you want to go forward all the way with regime change? Get rid of the Iranian regime, put in place something that we can work with in the future. And frankly, I think that's the stage we're at. That's what we have to do. But he hasn't been clear about that. If he's not prepared to do that, and there are, of course, a lot of risks for the United States in pursuing that, if he's not prepared to do it, then we end up in a situation where we negotiate a framework with the existing Iranian government on how shipping resumes. It's one or the other at this stage, and we really need to make a choice. Once we have a strategic position and we are pursuing it, I do think we can get help from our European allies.
We'll negotiate with the Iranian government, whatever that government is, because Israel keeps killing, frankly, so many of the leadership there. General, let me bring you into this discussion here. Overnight, just so you know what we saw here, we did see some action around the Strait of Hormuz, the United States using these so-called bunker buster bombs somewhere in this region here on the Iranian side of the Strait, General. So what's the United States trying to do in the absence, at least now, of sending convoys out of the Strait?
Well, thank you, John. Well, they were absolutely right to target these cruise missile launch sites. Remember 4 years ago, the Russian battleship, the Moskva, that was hit by a couple of unsophisticated cruise missiles that the Ukrainians were able to cobble together. They sunk that battleship in a tremendous political and military victory for the Ukrainians. So targeting these missile sites is great. Of course, they used 5,000-pound bombs. They're not the GBU-57s that they used to take out the bunker thrusters that they used to take out the nuclear sites back in June, those are about 7 times larger. But as the ambassador points out, there's still multiple threats that remain. You got all those mines, and Sarah did a great job of laying those out. Your reporting on that is fantastic. The drones that they could use, again, remember with Ukrainian success in using drones to take out the Russian Navy in the Black Sea. And then you got thousands of speedboats. You got 1,000 miles of coastline. I mean, that's the entire West Coast from California to Washington State. Think of all the hiding places they have for those speedboats. And remember, it only takes one speedboat to put a big hole in the side of a ship, like they did back in 2000 in Yemen when they almost sunk the USS Cole. So and as the ambassador points out, it'll only take a couple of strikes a week to probably completely shut down the Strait of Hormuz, even with the escorts, which, by the way, will probably take weeks, if not months, to cobble together.
Look, this is the very definition of asymmetric warfare, right? If one strike by the Iranians from a speedboat or a drone can have the impact of fighting against the entire air armada that you're seeing from the United States and Israel. Very quickly, Ambassador, I just want to follow up on one thing you said.
Yeah, it's almost like this is dumb as fuck. It's almost like this is dumb as fuck, and you can't do half measures and do an aerial only war with no casualties and only using technology, and war is a video game. That's not true. It looks like you shouldn't fuck with a country of 90 million people, you stupid fuck. You arrogant pieces of shit. This is why the right wing loses wars. They lose wars because their arrogant supremacist delusions and idiocy lead them to do things that are beyond belief. The Iranian people are not going to be dealt with easily. You lost to Yemen. You lost to Afghanistan. Those are kittens and puppies compared to the IRGC. You got chased out of Iraq. What are you fucking doing?
Want the Europeans perhaps to show a more positive attitude toward helping the U.S. in the Strait. The Wall Street Journal, in an editorial yesterday, said on that, good thing the president hasn't antagonized allies with tariffs or threats to invade Greenland. This is a reminder that treating allies well is wise, so they're more likely to help you when you really need them. What do you think of that assessment?
Well, I could not agree more. And I'm in Europe this week, and the mood here is very, very negative. You have to remember that all of our European allies are democracies. So to engage in some kind of expeditionary military operation, they're going to need support from their public. And right now, their publics are furious at the United States for these kinds of threats and tariffs and insults that we've been hurling at them for the past year.
Yeah, and again, we see that in Japan as well, with the Japanese Prime Minister headed to the United States this week. Listen, Ambassador Kurt Volker, Brigadier General Steve Anderson, thank you so much, both, for being with us.
So we've been talking a lot about the Strait of Hormuz. We just had that graphic up on the screen showing where it is. For the average person, they don't really care about the concept of Strait of Hormuz. What they care about is every time they go to fill up their gas pump, their gas prices are a lot more expensive because of the Strait of Hormuz. So that's where 20% of the world's oil goes through that little strait that Iran has so much to do with. What is the danger to the ships right now that are choosing not to go through there? What would need to happen militarily to get that strait moving again and to get everybody's gas prices down?
So basically, the Strait of Hormuz would have to be secured. And what does that really mean? In order to get those gas prices down, there would have to be a way to make sure that the Iranians don't put mines in the water and that they don't lob missiles at those ships. So they can do the missile launching piece from both from the sea as well as from land. So this actually presents as several problems from a military standpoint, because if you go into maritime actions, you would need a naval force that can actually handle those kinds of operations and can basically confront the Iranians. The Iranians, most of their navy has been sunk, but that's the navy that we see basically on the surface.
Yes, those are traditional navy ships which were sunk at more, because they're used for things like interdicting smuggling and fighting off pirates and things like that. They're not intended to fight the United States. They could never do that. So you basically sunk defenseless ships because they had the Iranian flag on them. Congratulations, bro. You really did it.
What else is part of their maritime force are speedboats, very agile speedboats. They also have dinghies, they have dhows, which are the Arab, basically fishing boat. That kind of thing is really an asymmetric advantage that the Iranians have. So even though a vast majority of the standard Iranian Navy is at the bottom of the sea, the problem is that they have other means of delivering mines. So that's one problem. The other problem is with launching missiles from land is you'd have to occupy the land or at least make it impossible to launch missiles from that. So that could potentially be done from the air, or of course it could necessitate ground troops depending on the exact nature of the threat. So that's the kind of thing that would have to happen. And we're a long way off from securing that part of the Persian Gulf and the Strait of Hormuz.
God, they're so dumb. Fuck, we're so screwed. The first batch, they misspelled. First batch of the 60,000 tons of rice offered by the People's Republic of China set sail toward Cuba. In response to adversity, the solidarity of true friends prevails and demonstrates that Cuba is not alone. In fact, I think I just saw another thing. Where Cuba had donated 5,000, or not Cuba, China had donated 5,000 more solar systems. This is the progress of the installation of 5,000 donated solar systems for Cuba. In the midst of the current energy crisis in Cuba, the installation of 5,000 solar systems donated by the People's Republic of China is underway across the country. Until the next hurricane. You think steel-mounted solar panels are flying away in the hurricane? You think those are the ones that are vulnerable to the hurricane? They're not nearly as vulnerable as just regular infrastructure. If anything, they're probably the most resilient to things like hurricanes. But nothing is immune. Pentagon seeks more than $200 billion for budget requests for Iran war. It's so funny how money is fake when it comes to paying for war. Conservatives are such fucking liars. There's never been an honest conservative. They're such fucking liars. Oh, we can't do that because it costs too much money. Yuck, 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 yuck. We can't spend $8 billion helping starving kids. We're just broke. Yuck, yuck, yuck. $200 billion for Israel. I don't know what else to say. I am starting to get to the point where, and this is a moment of radicalization. It's a moment of radicalization where you can look at the situation and you can just say to yourself, anybody who spouts this shit is an enemy of humanity at this point. It's like, it's not even really, there's not, and they know it too. That's the thing. Like if you look at Asmongold, he knows he's an enemy of humanity. At the core of what he's saying is self-loathing. It's a desire for the void. It's a desire to, he's too cowardly to transport himself there himself. And so he's begging for someone to do it for him. And that is really that's what all the sadism is about. It's about provoking that self-destruct. Ultimately, fascism is a suicidal ideology. It's an ideology where people are doing more and more provocative things. It's basically suicide by enemy coalition. They're trying to make regular, normal, well-adjusted human beings. Che Osei is going after Zoran's wife. Guys, this is in 2013. This is a joke. He's not going after. This is a joke. He's laughing at this. It's from 2013. Pretty sure she's allowed to say it. Yeah, exactly. It's called a joke. Also, let me just say this. Yesterday, Hassan had this moment where he was yelling at people for being dumb. And I just want to say, thank you, Hassan. Thank you for being you. He was yelling at all the anarchists and all of the dumb radlib virtue signalers. And I just want to say thank you, Hassan, for doing that. It was so gratifying. These fuckers got me labeled as an anti-Semite. That didn't come from a right-winger. That came from some radlib piece of shit. Sat on a clip for a year and waited till another white man was being accused of sex crimes and being a sex pest to try to drop that shit to get me canceled out of context. So I no longer had the VOD. I no longer had the context. I know, months and months later, that's what these disgusting radlib scum do. And why do they do it? So they could get their 100 viewer stream to a 300 viewer stream for a week, and they get me and Hassan labeled as anti-Semites, banned. And it's just like, these people need to go. They need to go. And that's why I haven't been shy about calling out people like Cinemarxism or Gremlo. Like those people have to go. You know, like, it is what it is. But we can't operate when we're getting stabbed in the back constantly because somebody is, you know, envious of what we've created and they want to grow. You know, like, those people have got to go, man. They've got to go. Now, I don't want to make this stream about those people, but it just, you know, if you interact with them, if you fuck with them, then I'm not going to fuck with you. Like, and okay, if that's the decision you want to make, that's the decision you made. You want to fuck with them? You're not fucking with me. That's just the way it goes. Good luck. Why are you acting like Hassan agrees with that? Oh, I don't think he agrees with that in particular. He doesn't agree. I'm sure he doesn't know anything about them, to be honest with you. But he does agree that the dumb motherfucking Radlibs need to shut the fuck up. I first heard about you when Bad and Hana made a video about how anti-Semitic you are. Yeah, exactly. He made a video about how anti-Semitic I am. He made a video about how anti-Semitic JDF is. Amazing. Meanwhile, why am I being called an anti-Semite? Well, because I'm opposed to this. Here's British journalist Steve Sweeney in southern Lebanon.
Further rocket attacks were reported against Nahariya and a minute. Fucking hell.
Can the left stop infighting? Oh my god. You think I started it with fucking Gremlo and you think I'm the one who decided to go after them? Are you fucking stupid? I wouldn't even notice them. They're a flea. See, what you guys like is when people get to shit talk and bash us with no response for years, trashing us and otherwise, you know, attacking us and going into spaces that I don't go into and trying to make them uncomfortable for my fans. It's spaces they don't own, and you expect me to be quiet about it. Tell them to shut the fuck up. Infighting is a strong word. They have to have a following to be worthy of that term. True. All the fucking idiot chatters complaining about drama just want us to get attacked and never fight back. Yeah, exactly. There were all the idiots who complain about drama. You're fucking stupid. When we fought back about, you know what we're not talking about much more anymore? You know who Hassan doesn't talk about much anymore? Destiny. Why? Because we counterattacked, finally. And we exposed all his fucking crimes. So he's irrelevant now. He's falling off now. How about you, instead of complaining about drama, how about you back me up? So people are punished for doing infighting against the people that are actually trying to build real shit. I mean, this week I had a Cuban attaché on. I had Kat Abu-Ghazaleh on. I had Oliver Larkin on, and we raised $25,000 like 2 weeks ago. I got Ryan Clancy in Wisconsin elected. We've had people, many people all over the fucking world that we're working with to do real shit. And then I get banned for being anti-Semitic, and I have that supposedly anti-Semitic, right? Or, you know, and who does that come from? And you want me, like, my platform could be permanently destroyed. So what, a 200 viewer Andy can go to 300 viewers? And you want me to be quiet about that? Shut the fuck up. I mean, there's clearly an active hate campaign against you, much more subtle than Hassan's. I mean, that's because I'm not as prominent as Hassan. So they need to be more active against Hassan. But yes, there's also an active campaign against me. Some of it is ideological. Some of it is just other streamers who are literally envious that I have views, and they think that by going after me, it's somehow going to help them because they're sociopathic, social climbers, and they have no talent. So when you have no talent, you think that the best way to grow is to tear down other people, which is not correct. I want to point this out because then somebody else with talent shows up and they're going to surpass you again because you have no talent. I would have never predicted the Gremlo betrayal. Yeah, because again, a lot of mediocre people spend a lot of time in what's called relational aggression. Somebody, you know, this is something that mediocre people do a lot. Narcissistic people do a lot, where they do whisper campaigns. This is part of like the narcissistic behaviors. This is how you know someone's a narcissist. If you do this a lot, you're probably suffering from narcissistic personality disorder. You should go to a therapist. But basically what they do is they try to harm someone or their social status by doing stuff behind their back, private things, you know, secret, you know, they try to make people uncomfortable for allying with someone or promoting someone. And they like do this subtly, not aggressively, not directly, but subtly, and in private conversations and things like that. It's called relational aggression. Is it aggression defined as a type of aggression that is intended to harm others through deliberate manipulation of their social standing and relationships? So, like, you know, typically it's what mean girls do, teenage girls do, is typically where relational aggression takes place. But also sometimes, you know, certain types of cowardly men also engage in it, because men are not as socialized to act like this. So a lot of this, you know, a lot of mean girls, this is kind of what they do, right? You know, they shit talk people in the private group chat. You know, that's the relational aggression that's typically associated with teenage girls. But on the left, you have some men that behave like teenage girls. IRGC says it locked and hit an F-35 over Central Red and severely damaged it. Okay, I don't know if this is AI. I can't verify this. I don't know who the fuck this guy is. It's just a post. I mean, what do you want me to say? Like, unfortunately, in the era of AI, like, and really good simulator video games, there's just CG. There's just no way for me to look at a random guy's post and go, that's real. You know, all we have is a report from CNN about an emergency landing. Right? Like, none of these are vettable. None of these, I can't verify any of these. Like, unfortunately, it is what it is. So let's go back to Israel.
Further rocket attacks were reported against Nahariya and admitted.
Here's Israel trying to assassinate a British journalist. He was not killed, but he was hit by shrapnel. So he's currently wounded. Is calling people teenage girls also not sexist? I don't know if I'm stupid. It is describing a type of behavior that is observed because it is inculcated as gender norms. You know, so in a certain sense, the way that our society enculturates various genders is the sexist thing. Observing a certain type of behaviors that are gendered and describing them doesn't make you sexist, because I'm not saying teenage girls are bad. I'm saying this acculturated toxic behavior is bad, although it is traditionally associated with mean teenage girls. Okay? All teenage behavior is kind of bad, to be honest. Hey, Mike, you should have told people to vote for Kamala. Why? So she could do the war too? So she could do the she could do the genocide that she supported? She was saying that the American military should be the most lethal military. Mike, do I believe in harm reduction? What's harm reduction mean? You created your account. You have to post on your main. You have to post on your main. You can't create an account and then immediately follow me. You have to post on your main, dummy. Get out of here. No attention for your alt. That's the rule of my stream. You can't create an account, join, and then try to shit talk me, saying how you know all sorts. Act like you know me. Act like you have a bunch of opinions on me for an account that just got created, right? You can't do that. You can't like seemingly know lore about me and then have a brand new account. That doesn't track. You have to have your real account. You can't shit talk on your fake alt account. Did I say genocide? Oh, no. What if I make alts with this stream and subscribe with them? I will never be mad if somebody makes an alt and then says positive things. Like, you know what I mean? There's no way she should have been dumb enough to go into a rant. Even Bush didn't fall for this nonsense. Here's what I'm gonna make a rule, and I'm gonna make it, and it's gonna be very simple. I need you to stop fantasizing about Kamala Harris. You're not allowed to fantasize about Kamala Harris here. Maybe on Blue Sky you can do that, but you're not allowed to fantasize about Kamala Harris in this chat. It is completely unproductive. There's no evidence for it. You're just making shit up because you're not coping with the reality we have today. She lost. She lost for good reasons. Her strategy was poor. That's that. We live in this world of today. It's time to get to work. You need to grow the fuck up. You sound like a fucking loser. I'll give you an analogy so it sticks. What do you think about the person who comes up to you and says, you know, in high school I was the starting quarterback and we lost the state championship because my stupid coach made a run play instead of a pass play on 4th down in the red zone. I would have thrown that ball into I would have been the state champion. But the stupid fucking coach, he called a run play and they got stuffed. I should have been a state champion. I should have been a state champion. What do you think of that guy? You say, shut the fuck up! Shut the fuck up! That's what you think. Shut the fuck up. No one cares. No one fucking cares. Shut up. You lost. Enjoy the fact that you were on the varsity team. Enjoy the fact that you were doing the competition. You're an adult now. We live in a different world. You have different problems. You have to act now. That's what I hear. That's what I hear when people talk about Hillary Clinton or fucking Kamala Harris. You're a fucking loser. Shut your fucking mouth. You're a fucking loser. That's what I think. The reason why we have Donald Trump is because you didn't learn the lessons of 2016 and you nominated Joe Biden in 2020, who was obviously mentally deteriorating as early as 2019. And I called that out in 2019. I said, we shouldn't nominate Joe Biden because he's mentally unfit to be president. He won't last. I said nominating Joe Biden would result in the rise of fascism further. When I had a debate with Sam Cedar in the summer of 2020, you can go back and look at it, where I said to him, I'm worried about Biden bringing in centrists and spending his entire administration going after the left, and that resulting in an even bigger disaster. I called everything that would happen when Joe Biden was nominated in a debate with Sam Cedar. You can go back and watch, see how my predictions came out. At a certain point, you can only be so mad about me being right. Like, how do people have the balls to come into my chat when I was right about the way politics were going to be for the entire 7 years of this stream? Not every single thing. I've been wrong about things from time to time because I'm a human being. And whenever I think I'm wrong, I correct it immediately and I bring it to you. I'm not an asshole. Okay. But the larger thrusts and arguments of this stream, namely, the only way to defeat the fascism is the populist socialist left, has been definitively been proven correct. I mean, the other theses of this stream, centrist Democrats hate the left more than fascism, has been definitively proven right. Like, there's really nothing more to say. They aren't mad that you're right. They're mad that you would declare it. It hurts their ego. The point, okay, just change your mind and agree with me. I don't know. Say Mike was right and he's a good guy and I'll help promote your stream. Like, it's not complicated. Like, if you want me to be friendly to you, be friendly to me. It's not, it's I'm an ape. We're all just big apes. We like reciprocal morality. I feel bad being mean to someone who is nice to me and vice versa. Unless you're a sociopath, when someone's nice to you, you want to be nice to them. That's just ingrained in our morality, our kind of default monkey brain. You pick the lice off my back, I pick the lice off your back. That's how we're wired. So if you want me to be nice to you, be nice to me. It's not complicated. But they think they're the most moral person. They think they're superior. Can you imagine being... I'm not even going to get off on that. I'm not even going to go down this line. Mike, is it true you used to be a Republican? If so, what changed your perspective? I was raised in a conservative military family. I was born on a military base. My father was a fighter pilot. My family grew up in this kind of milieu of military, loving the country, fighting the Cold War, that kind of shit, right? And ultimately, I was a child, basically, and I was looking up to my parents. That's really what it comes down to. And eventually, through the course of my life, beginning with the Iraq War was where I fundamentally started to break away from conservatism. So February 2003 is the first time that I became disillusioned with conservatism completely. And I resigned. I don't want to get into my biography too much because it's painful. I don't really feel like talking about it. But at the end of the day, I completely disavowed all of my old beliefs. It took me a while, but through life experiences and my own reason, I slowly climbed out of it. And this is before the internet, right? I was an adult before Facebook existed. I'm older than Google. Okay, like I came to these opinions through my own sweat of my own brow. Okay, I became a left winger before Bernie Sanders existed as a major political figure. Okay, like I threw away that shit through a lot of experiences, and there were a few life experiences that really changed me. One, I'll be completely honest, it's when my sister came out to me in, I want to say it was 2003, 2004. My little sister. And she told me and my mom, but not my dad. And so that was a major change. And I could tell you back then, it used to be illegal to be gay in America. In large parts of America, it used to be illegal to be gay. A lot of Zoomers don't know this. Not to be gay, to have gay sex, to be more specific. And so, America under Bush, they were trying to do a constitutional amendment in 2004 to ban gay marriage because some places in America were starting to trend towards legalizing it. And so George Bush wanted to ran on doing a constitutional amendment to ban gay marriage in 2004. And so these were huge moments where, I chose love and I chose my family over what I had been raised in as a conservative worldview. Then I got experiences with, I got a job working on road construction and repair on the Pennsylvania Turnpike after after my own, and I started talking to some guys, and I think they were Teamsters. And I started to get more and more into organized labor. And my dad, he started to get more into organized labor as well. So his perspective started to really change. Organized labor is what really changed my dad's mind on a lot of stuff. Being in a union. And so all of that slowly turned me over time. And then eventually the Tea Party happened. And this is where the Tea Party is the moment where a lot of my family formally renounced the Republican Party. We were still kind of like in southeast Pennsylvania. There was a long tradition of pro-union Republicans. I don't know if you guys know this, but there was a long tradition of like pro-union Republicans in southeast Pennsylvania. And the Tea Party in 2010 basically went after all of those people and threw them out of office. And so that was the moment. That was the moment when I was fully and totally what I would consider a progressive. The Tea Party was the moment where that truly radicalized me and made me realize that I'm a left winger. Now, socialism, democratic socialism, was not on the menu at that point. It was Elizabeth Warren. Cringe. It was the Elizabeth Warren wing. That's where the progressive wing was starting to cook again. And it was going after Barack Obama for not being far enough left. Pro-union Republicans, what the fuck is this? They don't exist anymore, but they used to exist in southeast Pennsylvania, in the Philly area. But there used to be a large section of pro-union Republicans, politicians, and such. There's still one guy left, although he's not really pro-union. But he is the very, very, very last one is a guy named Brian Fitzpatrick. He votes with unions 60% of the time, which for a Republican is an insanely high number. The average House Republican votes with unions 10% of the time. He votes with them 60%. I hate Fitzpatrick. He fucking sucks. But my point is that this is what I'm talking about, right? Like this type of politics is gone. Good riddance. It's contradictory. It makes no sense. And then through running for office in 2014 as a progressive Democrat, I was endorsed by the AFL-CIO. I was endorsed by Equality Pennsylvania, which is like the pro-gay group in PA. I was endorsed by Planned Parenthood. I was endorsed by conservation voters. I was endorsed by, all sorts of, pro public education. And through that experience of running for office, I talked to over 10,000 people on the doors myself, and experiencing the Democratic Party as it is, that drew me further and further and further to the left. And I saw the corruption of the mainstream Democratic Party, and I found it disgusting. And so many times in my life, I have been presented with opportunities that required me to sell out. And every single time, I went with my conscience. And if I'm being honest with you, chat, it wasn't even a choice. At no point have I ever been tempted to sell out. It was like taking a big whiff of shit to me. And if you've watched my stream for the past 7 years, you understand that I just say what I believe. I stand on business. I stand 10 toes down, and I always have. What's the whole claiming to be a lawyer thing? I graduated law school, and that's it. And then on my petitions, the Democratic Party filled out my petitions, and there is a section that was like informational at the top about what your profession is. And the Democratic Party, who created my petitions, I did not even create these. because I was recruited to run for office by the Democratic Party. They put lawyer as my profession. That's it. Ultimately, I got sued by Republicans to try to keep me off the ballot so that the Republican incumbent would not have to face any challengers in the election and he would win by default. And they lost at the trial court level, the appeal court level, and they were able to win a partisan far-right Supreme Court of Pennsylvania of Republicans, threw me off the ballot, and they threw off another guy who was trying to primary the city Republican governor, who was a retired attorney. He had put attorney as his profession, and he was retired, and they threw both of us off the ballot so that the Republican governor would not have a primary challenge, and that I wouldn't be able to challenge the Republican who was running in that seat, the incumbent. So they made up a new law that said you have to be a practicing attorney currently licensed to say that law is your profession, which, by the way, completely made up. They just made it up. They made it up completely, and they threw us off the ballot. Now, who gives a shit? Because 2 weeks later, I won the Democratic primary anyway. It literally did not matter. And then all the judges who made that partisan decision on the Supreme Court were exposed for sending bestiality porn and racist Obama memes to prosecutors, and they all got thrown out of office. And I helped 3 progressive judges win in the next year. After they did this to me, I helped 3 progressive Supreme Court judges win elections to replace them. And now Pennsylvania has a left-wing Supreme Court. So all the people who tried to rat fuck me are now gone. So when somebody says, oh my God, Mike, you lied about being a lawyer. No, I didn't. It's literally just a Republican lie. They're just repeating a Republican talking point that they found Googling because they have a goal of trying to damage my reputation, even though it's a complete lie. That's it. Anything else? Any other scandal you want me to talk about? And if you want to see that, here you go. PA Supreme Court, Obama and porn scandal. By the way, this is 11 years ago. So they're trying to do a scandal that resulted in me being off the ballot for 2 weeks, and then I won the Democratic primary anyway. I want you to understand that. I won the Democratic primary anyway, 2 weeks later. So 11 years ago, I was off the ballot for 2 weeks. That's their attack on me. That's my scandal. State Supreme Court Justice resigns over pornographic email scandal. Pennsylvania's Seamus McCaffrey steps down over involvement in growing email scandal that included obscene video in Congress with a snake. What made the Dems recruit you? I mean, they wanted someone to challenge the guy. They wanted someone to challenge the districts had just been gerrymandered, and they had a really close election in the prior election in 2012. And Pennsylvania's Republicans had just gerrymandered the state legislative seats. So they didn't know how bad that district was, newly gerrymandered, if it was winnable or not. And so they were desperate to find someone who was willing to run in that campaign. And I was like, you know what? Fuck it. I'll do it. Why didn't you take the bar after going to law school? My grandfather died, and my grandmother had nowhere to live because she had dementia. So I spent that 6 months prior to running for office trying to prevent her from becoming dead on the street. So I had to move her up from Florida. I had to handle all of her like the residuals of her property, getting rid of the house, finding her a place to like get memory care and things like that. It was in that 6 month period that I got recruited. And honestly, I hate America's legal system. I think it's corrupt. I think it's evil. And it blows, if I'm being completely honest with you. And I'm much more passionate about politics. So, that's kind of my general answer. How is your perspective still reformism, given the experiences you mentioned and what you've read? The answer to that is you think about politics in a perspective where it is rooted in your perspective. You think about politics in a subjective way, a moralist way, a liberal way. I think about politics as a progression through a development of revolution. And one of the necessary stages of revolution is the period of frustrated reform. So in order for us to transcend the current politics we have, it's not going to happen through individual conversations and individual conversions on a moralistic lens. People become drawn into the left through a series of working class campaigns. And that is what we need to do. We need to be organizing the masses. Instead of orienting toward my own personal development and my own personal moral system, I try to orient toward the masses and where they are and try to create a bridge from where they are to where I want them to be. And political campaigns, including running for office and taking power in the bourgeois state, are all avenues of building class consciousness and exercising our class power through things like withholding labor. That's why labor organizing and political campaigns are necessary to be done in this stage of development that the United States is currently under. That is my answer to that. If you don't agree with me, I don't think you have an actual understanding of the way that history has progressed in previous revolutionary conditions. It isn't just me as a moralist stating what I believe to be correct into the ether. It requires me to build a class conscious movement. And so reformism, as you say, is not what I believe. You mistake advocating for a reform as being a reformist, which is a misnomer and a sign that you're not really understanding the terms that you're using. A reformist is someone who believes that socialism will only come and can only come through the seizure of power through, a parliamentary means and through a gradual withering way of the capitalist class through reforms. That's what a reformist is. I'm not a reformist. I believe in what's called non-reformist reforms. Basically, seizing power wherever we can in order to give the working class more power, in order for them to reach a critical point where they are capable of reforming the society and seizing power themselves directly. An example of this is, I think that if all of labor is organized into militant unions, they will be able to exercise collective class power and economic power more effectively and in a more coordinated fashion than relying on anarchic rupture or, some emotional turpitude or turbulence, rather, not turpitude. You get what I'm saying? So I want to pass laws to put everybody in a union. And in order to pass laws to put everyone into a union, I need to be able to pass fucking laws. So I run for campaigns for people like Oliver Larkin who want to pass laws that put everyone into a fucking union. I don't think that just, going to my local fucking Whole Foods with a "would you like to join a union" petition is necessarily going to be as effective as me having a 10,000 viewer stream or 5,000 viewer stream where I educate all 5,000 people and turn them all into radical left-wing supporters. You understand my point? Won't we be placated, not frustrated? I'm only being quiet because I'm not trying to have a crash out, because I know it's a good question, and I'm trying not to react in the way that I want to react because I think it's bad optics. But let me just say this. What you're saying is like, wouldn't it be better if the army had less food and less shoes and less bullets and less guns? Wouldn't it be better if the army had less rest, less coordination, less aerobic fitness? Wouldn't it be better? Wouldn't the army fight harder if it looked like they were about to be annihilated and they had no chance of victory? Every single one of these reforms makes the working class stronger, but it doesn't necessarily mean that the working class is coordinated toward a goal. That's our job. Our job is to be the vanguard, the advanced members of the class who can articulate and create a compelling narrative to help organize the masses of the working class. But by making the masses of the working class more politically powerful, healthier, stronger, more intelligent, we make their ability to act on society stronger. Placation is just a sign that the advanced members of the class do not have control of the institutions that direct the class. So it's an irrelevancy. It's not, one doesn't track from the other. You having healthcare doesn't make you more liberal. You eating wholesome food doesn't mean you're going to be more liberal. Like, those don't follow.
What should we do?
Study the factory laws. Talk to the workers, question them. Find out what their grievances are. Then we can use those grievances in our propaganda. You must find ways of distributing leaflets, arrange contacts, meetings. When they see that we are identified with their everyday needs, then they will trust us. We can organize them, develop their political consciousness. You'll do nothing if you sit here and talk. like effete university liberals. We must go out, obtain the confidence of the people and the power of the people. Only they can challenge the Tsarist state and the bourgeoisie which supports it. We must show the people the structure of society so that they can pull it down with their bare hands.
What should we do?
Don't even get me started, people. It's all right. Anyway. All right. Sorry, that was a long rant. That wasn't about the Iran war. Sorry for everybody who's here to talk about the Iran war. What my views have changed since I first started streaming. I think that I would say that my views have evolved in the way that I present China. You know, I think at the beginning of the streaming, I was much more like, you know, hey, China has problems. You know, I was less positive about the way I would talk about China and more like, hey, they're not our enemy strategy, versus like now I feel like we could look at things that China is doing and saying, this is a success. This is good. As opposed to like perspective I had before, which is like, hey, they're not our enemy. Now it's like they're doing this right and we should emulate that. That's the way I'd say that's the number one way my my rhetoric has changed. This is the Japanese fascist prime minister, by the way.
Of course, no, Japan and USA.
China is just what happens when a socialist state is not embargoed. We have not had a socialist state that was allowed to participate in the world economy. All prior socialist states were isolated and embargoed from the rest of the world and isolated. China is the first socialist state that was actually allowed to participate in the world economy as an equal.
Very good friend, but one question, why didn't you tell US allies in Europe and Asia, like Japan, about the war before attacking Iran? So we are very confused about we Japanese citizens.
Well, one thing, you don't want to signal too much. You know, when we go in, we went in very hard, and we didn't tell anybody about it because we wanted surprise. Who knows better about surprise than Japan? Okay? Why didn't you tell me about Pearl Harbor? Okay? Right? You know, he's asking me, no, you believe in surprise, I think much more so than us. And we had to surprise him, and we did. And because of that surprise, we knocked out, the first 2 days, we probably knocked out 50% of what we, and much more than we anticipated doing. So if I go and tell everybody about it, there's no longer a surprise, right? Okay, one.
I'm dumbfounded. Your stream has not broken. I'm just dumbfounded. When you study war as an academic pursuit, one of the things you learn are some various doctrines. One of the doctrines, or one of the lessons of conducting military operations, is the idea of surprise. And there's different levels of surprise, right? From theater, strategic theater, tactical surprise, all those things. And obvious, you know, I think anybody who's ever played a video game understands that surprise is a tremendous advantage. When you have the opportunity of initiative, when you have the opportunity to attack an enemy and they are unaware, that is super fucking advantageous for you, right? And Donald Trump has no idea what I just said. He has absolutely no concept of what I just said. He just knows the word surprise means people don't know it's like a party and you didn't know there was going to be a party, so you did a surprise party. He thinks of war in that manner. He probably heard a general at some point say something about the element of surprise, and he's now repeating it like a 5-year-old. Now, when we talk about surprise, we're not talking about our own side being surprised. Like, happy birthday, I started a war. Surprise. That's not what we mean, you dumb fuck. You surprised the other side. God, his level of stupidity is almost insane. Okay, people are now reporting, as we said before, an F-35 has been damaged by Iranian fire. Incredible. This is Donald Trump.
We are now in position above Spheron 1. This is the moment we were training for all yesterday afternoon.
And now for the battle plan. As you all know, the key to victory is the element of surprise. Surprise!
That's literally what Trump did! Oh my God. I think one of the things, like, you'll oftentimes see me holding my head like this, and it's because I feel like there's damage being done to neurons. And I'm kind of like, it's like, have you ever, you know, if you played a contact sport growing up, I played a few contact sports growing up. One of them was ice hockey. And if you really got rocked, you know, the first thing that happens when you get up is you, like, you know, you fix your helmet, right? And let me tell you, it feels like mentally when I hear Donald Trump talking, it's like getting CTE. No more attacks will be made by Israel pertaining to this extremely important and valuable South Pars field unless Iran unwisely decides to attack a very innocent, in this case, Qatar, in which instance the United States of America, with or without the help or consent of Israel, will massively blow up the entirety of the South Pars gas field at an amount of strength and power that Iran has never seen or witnessed before. I do not want to authorize this level of violence and destruction because of the long-term implications that it will have on the future of Iran. But if Qatar's LNG is again attacked, I will not hesitate to do so. Thank you for your attention to this matter, President Donald J. Trump. Trump has to be one of the dumbest people to ever live, right? Like, when you think about stupidity, there's there is the stupidity that a person has at an individual level. And there are people that are like literally comatose or vegetative state. So I guess you could say they're dumber than him because they can't interact with the world around them because of that. But we talk about like how if somebody is stupid, right? But they're able to manipulate other people socially to make all of society dumber, to make society make decisions that are suboptimal and stupid, right? The power of their stupidity is amplified. You get what I'm saying? So like when I say Donald Trump is the dumbest piece of shit to ever live, what I mean is, yeah, at an individual level, more people may be dumber, but his combination of traits has created a kind of super stupidity that now inflicts massive stupidity on the entire fucking world and makes all of us dumber, makes all of our societies function less effectively. Like it's a powerful version of AOE stupid. It's like super stupid. When I say he's the stupidest motherfucker to ever live, what I mean is he has inflicted a version of stupidity onto the planet that is more intense than any other individual has ever successfully managed to do.
And there are numbers that just jump off the screen at you, and this is one of those. Because just take a look here. MAGA GOP view of Trump. Approve 100%. 100%. If you are a member...
Camps, prisons, re-education. Camps, prisons, re-education. Whatever you want to call it. 31% of Americans say they're MAGA, and 100% of those people say they approve of Donald Trump. Camps, prison, re-education. He's a pedophile. He's putting us in a dumb war in the Middle East. He's stealing money hand over fist. Camps, prison, education. Second Reconstruction. These people have to be dealt with. There's really nothing more to say. They're batshit fucking crazy. How can you look at this country and say that what he's doing is good for it? There's not one area, not one, that he's effectively managing.
Of MAGA and the GOP, you approve of Donald John Trump. 0% say that they disapprove. You don't have to be a mathematical genius to know you can't go higher than 100%. He is the 1972 Miami Dolphins.
Why didn't you tell U.S. allies in Europe and Asia, like Japan, about the war before attacking Iran? So we are very confused about we Japanese citizens.
Well, one thing you don't want to signal too much. You know, when we go in, we went in very hard, and we didn't tell anybody about it because
I made this same tweet. I made the tweet. It's like America's like, oh my God, I can't believe Japan cowardly and dastardly attacked us at Pearl Harbor with no warning. Oh God, it was such a crime. Oh God. And then all we do are sneak attacks. All we do are sneak attacks.
we wanted surprise. Who knows better about surprise than Japan? Okay.
Hour of his stupidity. It's like watching Donald Trump puts me into a kind of like stage, and like I understand that this is the whole reason he's popular, is that people like me look at him, those of us with a modicum of intelligence, and we look at him and we go, it's like seeing a turd. It's like the platonic ideal of a turd. You know what I get? You know what I mean? It's just like filth, stupid. It's like seeing Vanta Black. You can't help, but you almost can't look away because it's so fucking worthless with no redeeming characteristics, completely black. How do people exist in a room with this guy? Like, I think that's what I need to know. How does a Secret Service agent exist in a room with this guy? You know that he has to be the most annoying, whiny, bitch-made, stupid fuck. How do you sit there locked and loaded in the room and just like listen to this guy without, you know, walking out? and retiring.
Why didn't you tell me about Pearl Harbor? Okay, right? You know, he's asking me. No, you believe in surprise, I think much more so than us. And we had to surprise him, and we did. And because of that surprise, we knocked out, the first 2 days, we probably knocked out 50% of what we, and much more than we anticipated doing. So if I go and tell everybody about it, there's no longer a surprise.
I almost don't even know what to say. Like at a certain point, I'm just repeating myself. You know, I'm just repeating myself over and over and over again, where I'm just like, he's a dumb, subhuman piece of shit. Now, yesterday, the head of counterintelligence resigned. Oh, before we go into that, I wanted to show you the gas attack.
And a rare rebuke of Israel from the US president. Donald Trump says he knew nothing about Israeli attacks on Iran's South Pars gas field, the largest in the world. The president posted on social media, no more attack will be made by Israel on the area unless Tehran retaliates against Qatar, which of course shares the gas field with Iran. Oil and gas facilities came under attack from Iran on Wednesday, including sites in Qatar, the UAE, and Kuwait. Saudi Arabia says it intercepted 4 missiles over Riyadh as foreign ministers from the region met in the capital. CNN's Oren Lieberman joining us now from Jerusalem. And Oren, I want to learn more, if we can, about what happened with the Israeli attack on the Iranian part of the South Pars gas field. What do we know? What do we understand? We've certainly heard from the US president. Anything from the Israeli side?
Becky, before we saw President Donald Trump's response, we had heard from 2 Israeli officials that the attack was coordinated with the United States. And that, of course, is no surprise. Since the very first opening strikes nearly 3 weeks ago now, Israel and the U.S. have been coordinated on nearly every aspect of this. And that's not only a testament to the relationship between the U.S. and Israel at the political and military levels, it's also simply necessary to carry out these attacks with so many moving parts in the air, and in the sea all at once. So Israeli officials say the attack on the South Pars gas field was coordinated with the U.S., and it was intentionally targeted at gas and electricity infrastructure, not at oil infrastructure, to insulate the attacks and the price of fuel in the United States from Israel's ongoing attacks. Of course, that didn't work when Iran lashed out and attacked gas and oil infrastructure around the region. But everything we have heard from the Israelis, and we heard it again from a foreign policy advisor to Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu last night on Jake Tapper's show, is that all of this has been coordinated with the U.S. And we've heard that from the U.S. side as well, both political and military. So, Becky, at this point, I think it's very difficult to believe Trump's claim that the U.S. and he knew nothing about the attack on the South Pars gas field because of the coordination we have seen to this very point. The idea that 3 weeks into a war that Israel wants to continue, that Israel would just simply go rogue and carry out attacks that are not coordinated with the U.S. is incredibly hard to believe right now.
What else do we know about the long list of targets that we understand Israel has at this point? They were, it seems, targeted at individuals and groups inside of Iran. I'm just wondering whether this long list includes other installations outside of Tehran and the sort of, you know, the neighborhoods.
That answer is almost certainly. They're not going to give us a target list of what's remaining just yet, but we have seen them expand where they are striking. Yesterday, they acknowledged striking on Iran's northern border. Their first strikes, they say, in northern Iran. Israeli officials tell us they hit Iranian naval assets in the Caspian Sea, which is, again, the first time we've seen that since the war. There are also almost certainly more targeted killings that Israel is planning to carry out, including against Mujtaba Khamenei and others. So that list certainly has more targets on it, Becky, as the war continues.
So what do you make of this apparent split between the U.S. and Israel, with President Trump in a rare rebuke of Israel saying the U.S. knew nothing about the strike on a key Iranian gas field after Iranian state media blamed both the U.S. and Israel, and President Trump calling on Israel to end all strikes on energy targets?
Now, my thinking about that is that President Trump has made a political analysis, and that is that the greatest vulnerability we in the United States and especially the world as your previous commentators have made mention, is vulnerability in the energy sector. So that particular political pressure, both domestic and foreign, is felt by President Trump. And what he saw was an attack, perhaps, we don't know this for certain, but certainly initiated by Israel. Whether or not Israel had any previous approval or at least giving alerts to the United States, doubtful, nobody knows. But that hit.
I think the way that I would analyze this, and chatters, you should, feel free to disagree, is I think that Israel is in charge of the American government. I think that Donald Trump is demented and his brain is basically melted, and he's not really aware or intelligent enough to really make these judgments. I feel like there is Israeli spies at the very height of the American decision-making tree, and really they're just kind of following along with whatever Israel has wanted. And that's why we got Joe Biden and Donald Trump as president, is because they are mentally subnormal, and we've basically been doing whatever Israel wants since October 7th, which they allowed to take place because they knew about it. They were very well aware of October 7th, and they allowed it to happen in order to create the conditions for greater Israel. And this is basically what's happening. I really don't think it's that much more complicated than that. Is that Benjamin Netanyahu and the fascists of Israel are implementing greater Israel using October 7th as a pretense to engage in ethnic cleansing and genocide of the Palestinian territories and to carve as many chunks off their neighbors as possible to create a greater Israel. And the United States is attacking Iran because Iran was the only non-American puppet in the region that would support a resistance to Israel's attempt to grab Lebensraum, or living space. So Iran is now claiming that they have hit an F-35, and a lot of people, I've mentioned it before, but a lot of people are coming. A lot of people are coming in, so I'm gonna make that my title because people really want to talk about it. So Iran as a tag. Yes, that's a good tag. Iran, Iran. When I'm talking about when I'm speaking about Iran, Iran. It's Iran when I'm feeling when I'm talking from the perspective of the Iranians, Iran. And when I'm talking about it from the perspective of Americans, it's Iran, which is what the military is going to be doing. Iran away.
Energy. And if there is anything that President Trump does not want to happen, that is a political downslide as a result of an uproar, both in the United States and around the world, about the desperate circumstances that are resulting from the, quite frankly, the embargo of fossil fuels, natural gas, petroleum, bottled up down there at the Straits of Hormuz.
Could this signal the U.S. stepping back a little bit here?
I am an optimistic person, so perhaps.
I'm an optimistic person, says the general. I'm an optimistic person, so perhaps.
Again, I'm not one of these who have, optimism hasn't pushed me to the point in which I would embrace the expectation that this war will end in another week to 2 weeks. And that's because we use an expression in the military, the enemy has a vote. Yeah. And what that means, quite simply, is we can have all the best plans in the world. We can establish our objectives, limited or broader, but we are in a conflict with a regime that has a long history grounded in religious fanaticism. It is not so simple to encourage the Iranian leadership to abandon what, from its perspective, is an existential conflict, meaning Iran, from the date of its formation in 1979, has dedicated itself to self-preservation and directly, and has expressed very clearly, destruction of Israel and the implementation or imposition of huge pain on the United States.
Wait a minute, chat. Is this true? Did Claudia say she's breaking the blockade of Cuba?
Justamente si ya nos ha reiterado que va a continuar la ayuda, el envío de ayuda humanitaria, pero ¿qué va a pasar con el petróleo? Se hizo una pausa y por...
Estamos viendo distintos esquemas, ya vamos a informar, vamos a ver distintas posibilidades.
Ok, sí, sobre todo porque...
Y es muy importante esto, porque también la derecha se vuelve, se enloquece cada vez que decimos esto. Nosotros somos soberanos de tener un acuerdo comercial con cualquier país del mundo. Y además la ayuda humanitaria en estos momentos que está sufriendo tanto el pueblo de Cuba. Entonces estamos buscando esquemas de seguir ayudando al pueblo cubano.
Así es, en los últimos días se han registrado apagones masivos prácticamente en todo el país por falta justamente de combustible y bueno, en México la población lo ha externado a través de encuestas, está
a favor del apoyo de la ayuda humanitaria. Hace poco salió en el Heraldo, por cierto, y está a favor.
Sí. Gracias, presidente.
We will look for ways to help Cuba. She's saying there's possibility and ways to continue to help Cuba. She's looking for options. The only reason that Mexico hasn't, given more oil and aid to Cuba is because the United States has said that they will punish the Mexican people if they do. Imagine being bordering Donald Trump and being brown. She basically says yes, humanitarian aid, and say they're looking at option when it comes to oil. Basically, they're trying to convince the United States to let them send oil, and the United States is not going to let them send oil. Like, honestly, if I were in Mexico, I would do it. Fuck it. But again, it's easier for me to say. I don't have the responsibility for hundreds of millions of people, right? And there are so many right-wing capitalist white Mexicans who are so eager to try to throw shit at Claudia.
States. I don't see the Iranians necessarily backing down, regardless.
She said she'll run the blockade if Mike from PA makes good on his sub goals. Speaking of subscribers, chat, we are 3 hours into the stream and I forgot to shill. Last month, we had a really, really, really good sub count. But this month, it's been a little bit tighter. So if you enjoyed the content, please consider supporting it by subscribing. Sometimes, chat, as a content creator, you go through peaks and valleys. You go through peaks and valleys. So sometimes people get accustomed when they see you at a peak that's your new normal. And one of the hardest things to learn as a content creator, as somebody who has a small business or is self-employed, you can't depend upon that. You can't raise your level of consumption. You cannot, and I'll be honest with you, chat, I've been donating to a lot of people over the last month. I've given out thousands and thousands of dollars this month to various causes and campaigns. So please consider supporting the stream by subscribing. Tier 1, Tier 2, or Tier 3 sub. If you have Amazon Prime, you can attach that to your Twitch account. You get 1 free sub a month. That's your Twitch Prime sub. That's like making Jeff Bezos hand me money. And if you have a Prime and you don't use it, well, then Jeff Bezos goes and spends it on Donald Trump. Thank you for being the backbone of the American economy. You're welcome. So please consider supporting the stream by subscribing. Right now, chat, we have a hype train. Yay! The top sub gifter and the top bit donor get the hype train conductor badge next to your name. Wow. No, in all seriousness, chat, you guys, this community and its generosity have given me the freedom to pursue the politics that I think are correct without worrying about sponsors. And guess what, chat? They punish me. I don't think you guys understand just how much I'm giving up by speaking the truth. Every single day, I put on the politics tag onto this stream and expressly am turning down a lot of money so that I can speak my mind and not have to worry about sponsors complaining. But it also means that I'm rely even more heavily on all of you. So if you enjoy the content, the only way it's going to survive is if you support the stream. And if you have the means, please support the stream directly. It really does mean a lot. People only give money because you haven't betrayed the leftists and show yourself to be a real one. So true. But I'm just reminding you that the only way I can succeed is with your support. The only way I can maintain my independence is with your support. You personally cost Kat the election. You owe her 1 bathwater. So true. Tally Hugh And Icarus, thank you both for giving 10 gifted. And meritocracy is a myth. Thank you for the 10. We will reconstruct the presents in the aggregate. We may not have the presents anymore, but we will reconstruct the presidents in the aggregate. We're doing Moneyball streaming. You fell in love with a politician? Me? No. Smoke the pack on Rape Tone? I don't think so. Nymph, thank you all for gifting your 5 and 10 subs respectively. 1 week banned from YouTube. Can't post or stream. Can't say I didn't see this coming. Every platform is over sanitized. They pretend you can speak your mind freely, but you really can't. 1 week no content because of excessive swearing. All good. Not worried about it. See y'all in 1 week. I'll still be posting here. Gotta focus on the gym and spend time with the fiance and my dog. Can you imagine dating Rape Tone? That's crazy. This guy is dangerous, man. Save that person. Save that dog. In a major wing for the big banks, the Trump administration is pushing to loosen the capital restrictions put in place after the 2008 financial crisis. Oh my God, we're all gonna die. We're all gonna fucking die. This too, Mike. US SEC were preparing to scrap quarterly reporting requirements, giving them the option to share results twice a year. I think my webcam broke right as I got up. Right as I got up, my camera broke. The webcam was like, this is dumb as fuck. So basically, we're allowing corporations to obscure how they're doing better. We're allowing big banks to borrow and do more risky investments with less reserves. And the economy is creating no jobs. And the housing market is cooling off. Trump officials weigh $1 billion deal to stop offshore wind farms. They wouldn't just pay $1 billion not to build anything. They wouldn't pay $1 billion to a French company not to build anything. I can't speak. 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 I'm going to get perma'd. I'm going to get permabanned. I'm going to get permabanned. We need to have prisons. There's really nothing more to say. If you're a Trump supporter, you should go to prison. Like, I don't know what else to say. There's really nothing more to say. There's nothing more to say. Like, there is absolutely nothing more to say. You are my fucking enemy. Buy a gun. Like, holy shit. That's crazy. The Justice Department would pay them $928 million to French company Total Energies, reimbursing the company for its winning bids and lease sales during the Biden administration. In exchange, it would abandon its plans to build wind farms and commit to investing in natural gas infrastructure in Texas. It's quite unusual for the administration to do this cash outlay, seemingly just because Trump doesn't like offshore wind. Once operational, it would have provided more power would produce enough renewable power for more than 1 million homes. At the same time, Mr. Puyen suggested the company would put a hold onto its lease for the next 4 years, preserving the opportunity to restart work on the project after Mr. Trump's term. The deal the administration is considering would require the company to give up the lease altogether. This is a way that when Donald Trump loses the next election, they can't just smoothly invest in renewables, because this lease will have to be started from scratch. And then what company will want to invest in America when you have this kind of uncertainty in renewables? Because so it'll be more expensive to try to induce anybody to do this because of the risk of it just getting canceled. I think one of the reasons why we need to start focusing on supporting the idea of reconstruction and re-education camps is that we're at kind of like a crisis. I want you to imagine, say 30% of the country supported the idea of committing mass murder and killing everybody, right? And so it is incomprehensible. It's an insane kind of thing to imagine. But at a certain point, the humane thing is to try to contain those people. Like, even if you believe in personal freedom, even if you believe in freedom of conscience, the idea that 30% of people are trying to kill everyone, they have to be dealt with. And all the institutions that make them believe that have to be dismantled. And it's a rough thing to say, but it is true. And so that means that we've got to start, for example, Fox News needs to be banned. And every single Fox News executive should have all of their wealth taken, and they should all be arrested. And it's really, that's the type of policies we need to start pursuing. I don't know what else to say, because this isn't just wrong in the sense of we disagree about whether this is a good investment or we have a difference of aesthetics or whatever. This is taking $1 billion to make the country poorer. Like, it's just a disaster, and it's to make us more dependent on fossil fuels as fossil fuel prices are spiking from a war in the Middle East. This is anti-human. This isn't just like morally bankrupt. This is actively malicious. This isn't just selling out. This is trying to hurt humanity, right? Like, this is just like malevolent for malevolent's sake. I don't know what else to say. In addition, Total Energies would agree to accelerated investments in gas plants and gas production sites in Texas. So they're taking away economic opportunity for renewable energy from the north and off the East Coast, so New York and North Carolina, and so they can invest in fossil fuels in Texas. This is a war, and let's fight it. Like, you're our 70% against your 30%. Let's fucking go. I mean, at the end of the day, like, this is rabid. This is a theft of money from my taxes to an anti-human. This is like building a doomsday. Like, this is a villain from fucking Captain Planet polluting because he likes polluting. The Trump administration is now 0 for 5 in its efforts to stop wind farms. They're trying to stop the production of renewable energy. They're trying to stop us having cheap electricity that we just get from wind for 30 years of free electricity. This is in a period where we need more electricity. With the amount of apolitical people, you know damn well it's not just 30%, man. I mean, most people will stand aside, you know, even the 30% of Donald Trump supporters. I don't think that you could get, I don't know what else to say. I don't know what else to say. There is not one position that Donald Trump holds that you could rationally argue for. That's insane. That's crazy. There is not one position that you can look at and go, you know, I kind of understand that. Kind of makes sense. I see that. It is, all of it is about enriching specific individuals at the expense of the country. That's what it is. I'm going to enrich this guy, this company. It'll cost, I'll give this guy 10 billion. It'll cost the country 100 billion. That's the Donald Trump policies. Corruption doesn't even really fit. It goes beyond corruption. It's looting. It's looting.
I think Trump's doing the right thing, honestly.
What's up?
I got no comment on that.
You don't know why?
Nah, I'm just taking a guess.
You're just guessing that he's doing the right thing?
Yeah.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
How do you?
So here's my general feeling about that. You know, you're not a human being. I know you're saying this for giggles or whatever. You're not a human being. All right. Like, I want to repeal the Humane Slaughter Act. This is USSR type stripping the copper from the walls. Yeah, because that's what neoliberals do. They destroy societies, turn you all into pedophile. That's what happened when the Soviet Union fell. They turned all of Eastern Europe into child prostitutes. That's the Epstein class plan for America. What, you think this is the first time they've ever done it? That's what Ukraine was famous for before being invaded by Russia. They were famous for being the most corrupt society with the most child trafficking. That's the Ukraine model for America. Will we make it the next 2.75 years without going into recession? We're already in a motherfucking recession. We haven't created a job since Donald Trump has been in office. I think for me, you know, obviously I don't know what else to say at this point. Like, I think you all know what I believe. I think you all peepo smile to yourself. You know what we need to do. But it's just not going to happen until it is forced to happen. Until you're forced out of your chairs from necessity, and you will. Small airports are going to start shutting down. In case you want to know, our entire transportation system is collapsing. This isn't even a story. You're not going to be able to fly places soon.
160 TSA agents have quit their jobs in the midst of the continued partial government shutdown. The airport security shortages are causing massive delays and are a potential threat to smaller airports.
Watch the whole clip. Which clip? What clip? What are you talking about? What clip? The fuck are you talking about? Oh, Don Lemon? Oh, sorry. I forgot about that shit because whenever I see a Trump supporter, I just think, I don't have it anymore. I think I closed it. Oh, well.
Potentially being closed completely. That's according to the TSA. Joining us right now is Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy. And Secretary Duffy, thank you for being with us today. You know, there are so many questions about what's happening, but as this drags out, I think the number one question is, are people who are flying today safe? Or have we reached a point where there's actually a security threat?
Well, the reasons why we have such long lines is when we have, more TSA agents that call out than previous. It takes longer to get through TSA. So, what that means is they're doing their job, right? They're screening all the.
Doing the right thing, honestly.
What's up?
I got no comment on that.
You don't know why?
Nah, I'm just taking a guess.
You're just guessing that he's doing the right thing?
Yeah.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
How do you feel?
I mean, I don't know. I don't think Trump's doing the right thing.
Is this a joke?
What?
Is this a joke?
Yeah.
No,
it's not. It's not.
All right, you can fucking drive home, bro. Or walk home, sorry.
Damn, I don't know what just happened. All right.
But he doesn't even know why.
Yeah, I don't know why. I just think, like, it's not good for the economy. Like, I don't know. Yeah.
I don't really give a fuck about the war. Smoke weed, get money, fuck bitches. Hell yeah.
So how do you feel about the war in Iran?
I think Trump.
The thing about civil wars or any kind of violence is the type of people that are going to emerge are the ones that understand that all of the social norms and expectations and rules of society are mental constructs, which is a type of thinking that very few people actually operate under and understand. A condition of anomie, as they call it, is different than any of you are really prepared to understand. Anime, not anime. And those three men would not survive. And that's really kind of the situation where you're like, damn, that's kind of harsh, don't you think, Mike? And the answer is, yeah, it's harsh. Americans are cattle. A lot of Americans are nowhere near even being capable of knowing what they don't know. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, they are so far away from being able to defend themselves, let alone defend their community. They are nothing more than chaff. That's my reaction to that. Like, legitimately, I don't even consider those guys to be human beings. Like, all of them. They are, and it's nice that you got to live in America for a while the empire was happening, but you certainly never gain the skills to survive in the long term. Apparatuses of knowledge collection are more important than knowledge itself. That is highly conditional. Apparatuses of knowledge collection require stability and authority, whereas knowledge can be used under any condition. Sir, they are goyim cattle. I wouldn't use the term goyim because I'm not a Jewish supremacist talking about Americans. That's what you would hear in the Epstein files. I don't use that. I'm somebody who would be called goyim, not somebody who would use the term goyim. I never want that word to pass my lips, to be honest with you.
Necessary people, but it's just taking a longer period of time. So yes, it's safe, but when you're going to travel by yourself is one thing, but if you're traveling with kids, it just becomes very laborious. I mean, in places like Philadelphia, Chicago, Houston.
What is goyim? Goyim is basically a Jewish slur for non-Jews. Gentile is like the polite term. Goyim is the slur. It's like calling somebody a gringo, really. I don't know if you would call gringo a slur, but it's in that kind of, I don't know. It's not really like gringo. It's more harsh than that. Like, I don't know if I would call it a slur, but it's similar to calling someone a gringo, I guess. It's derogatory. Gringo is not a slur. What the fuck you want? That's what I just said. That's literally what I just said. I was comparing it to, I'm trying to like rank, I'm trying to put it in a place of like slur, clear slur, versus like derogatory versus like, maybe just a descriptive of an other. There's like a descriptive of an other all the way to a slur. And there's like a spectrum. I would put goyim closer to slur than gringo is. So it's not like a hard slur, but it's certainly like on that spectrum of like derogatory term. Gaijin is another, that's a good one. It's like gaijin. There's like gaijin, gringo. Those are like similar, but it's harsher than that. Not quite like, if that makes sense. What do I care for the goyim? But Isaac was different. Gaijin is not derogatory. Gaijin is like saying foreigner. Like gaijin is like just an outsider term, right? Like saying foreigner. Is foreigner derogatory? I don't know if I would consider foreigner to be derogatory, but it's like calling someone a foreigner. It kind of hits the ear and you're like, it depends on the context. Gaijin is derogatory? Oh. It's similar to kafir. It's harsh and derogatory. Oh, okay. That makes sense. Thank you for giving me more examples, chat. If somebody's calling people goyim unironically, that's probably in a derogatory fashion. Most of the time, it's in a derogatory fashion. It doesn't have to be, but most of the time it is. Stop, you're going to get banned? Huh? I'm not going to get banned for talking about a word's usage. I don't think, and by the way, I'm not saying that I'm not saying that I don't think you should use it. If you know what I mean? Like it's associated with, it's been brought into the discourse by the right, by the far right. And it's and the use of like goy and you know, goy slop and things like that is associated with far right usage, where they are appropriating a Jewish term in order to create, like, you know, push the conspiracy theories about, you know, Jewish control of media, etc., etc., etc. So I don't use it because I consider it to be a shibboleth of being part of the far right. You know, it's like it's like a dog whistle. If you're using goyim, you're like dog whistling to other Nazis or other like anti-Semites. So I think that you shouldn't use it because of that. It's very chud coded. Yeah. It isn't a slur if you're non-Jewish and not close to Jews and you hear the word, you're probably hearing it derogatorily, but it's also been given so much space and it's honestly not even that many Jews who use it at all, and a lot use it ironically. I mean, I think it was used a lot as a slur in the Epstein files. So Jeffrey Epstein and a lot of the elite Zionists that he was speaking with would use it a lot as a slur in the Epstein files. So I think that's part of why it's getting a second wind, why it's getting so much attention. Is it was used by a lot of Jewish supremacists in the Epstein files. Are you aware of those things called the Epstein files? We could search it up, you know, if you want. We can go and look in the Epstein files for it if you want to go down this path. I don't think you could really get fairer than I'm being right now. You know what I mean? Epstein, the financier? Yeah. The English teacher at the, high school English teacher or whatever the fuck he was, or math teacher. Anyway, let's go back to talking about how all the economy is crashing for the war in Israel. Excuse me, the war in Iran that Israel started. Oh, am I being anti-Semitic again? Did I say that Israel started the war in Iran? Oh, Mike's being an anti-Semite again. I'm being sarcastic. I hate anti-Semitism. I abhor anti-Semitism.
You know, lines that are 2, 3, 4 hours long.
Silver is doing amazing? I thought silver was crashing. Did it spike again? Yeah, okay, that's what I thought. It's down 8%. Gold's down 6%. Bitcoin is back below 70,000 again. It briefly went, they had another like attempt to make a run and then it went up to 74,000 like yesterday. Why is it down? Because the markets are now trading like shit coins. Silver is going it's swinging 7% in one day. This is all speculation. It's a weird thing because Jews have historically been marginalized, but with the dynamic of Israel-Palestine, Jewish supremacy is a real thing. Well, it's not just that. It's that there is a state now. And that state of Israel is like, this is why we talk about state power. Look how much power is coming out of a country the size of New Jersey because they're exercising state power. And people don't understand that states are so organized and have so much resources, they can put so much pressure onto you as an individual. That's why seizing state power is quintessentially important if we are going to win as a left-wingers. And ignoring the state or try to go around the state is deadly stupid. You have to have state power. That's the lesson I'm learning.
Make travel just grinding.
Yeah, I heard that over the weekend we hit call-outs north of 10%, maybe 10.9% or so.
All right, let's watch this from the beginning.
360 TSA agents have quit their jobs in the midst of the continued partial government shutdown. The airport security shortages are causing massive delays and are a potential threat to smaller airports potentially being closed completely. That's according to the TSA. Joining us right now is Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy. And Secretary Duffy, thank you for being with us today. You know, there are so many questions about what's happening, but as this drags out, I think the number one question is, are people who are flying today safe, or have we reached a point where there's actually a security threat?
Well, the reasons why we have such long lines is when we have, more TSA agents that call out than previous. It takes longer to get through TSA. So what that means is they're doing their job, right? They're screening all the necessary people, but it's just taking a longer period of time. So yes, it's safe, But when you're going to travel by yourself is one thing, but if you're traveling with kids, it just becomes very laborious. I mean, in places like Philadelphia, Chicago, Houston, lines that are 2, 3, 4 hours long make travel just grinding.
Yeah, I heard that over the weekend we hit call-outs north of 10%, maybe 10.9% or something, the highest we've seen. That's on the national level. Some places like Houston saw call-outs of over 50%. Is that the latest update you have, or do you have anything else you can fill us in on that front?
Yeah, so right now on average we're rolling about 10%, which is 5 times the normal call-out rate. But last weekend, on average, it was only double the average call-out rate. So what I'm seeing is it's getting worse.
By the way, Philadelphia is not a small airport. I mean, like, are you kidding me? I mean, it's not Newark. It's not JFK. It's not Dulles. It's not, LaGuardia. But, like, what are we talking about here? It's not LAX, but it's not fucking Des Moines. That's a small airport. Like, what the fuck are we doing here?
Day by day, and we have to think about the TSA worker, but these are not highly paid individuals. They start off at about $45,000 to $55,000, but living in in DC and Atlanta and New York, they live in very expensive communities, so it's really challenging for them. And so I saw this with the FAA and our air traffic controllers. The TSA agents missed a partial payment. Last Friday, they missed a full payment. As we get into next week, Becky, and they're about to miss another payment, this is going to look like child's play, what's happening right now. You're going to see small airports, I believe, shut down. You're going to see extensive lines, and air travel is going to almost come to a grid halt, stop. And so, listen, the point is, we don't have to live this. Let's not use the American people as a political tool to get your will. We had a race in the last election about Joe Biden letting in 10, 12, 15 million people. Donald Trump ran and said, we're going to get those bad hombres out of the country. Democrats lost on that. Donald Trump's doing it, and Democrats are trying to redo the election and use the same policies that they lost on. Listen, let's actually get the bad people out. Let's Homeland Security. If there's a time to actually have Homeland Security up and operational, it would be a time like now when we're in a conflict with Iran. We've let, again, the 15 million people into the country that weren't vetted by Joe Biden. And it can be an incredible risk because we don't know who's here. We need Homeland Security now more than ever. Democrats should fund it and then say, hey, we want to have some modifications. By the way, the White House, Donald Trump, has been willing to work with Democrats, but just not give them everything they're asking for. But the president will make some concessions. He's a negotiator, and he's had that conversation. It just seems like they're in a place where they don't want to get to yes because their base, their radical base, doesn't want to fund Homeland Security, doesn't want to fund ICE. They want to keep all these individuals in the country.
But we know it's already funded till 2029, and I don't know where the messaging is being lost for Republicans. The messaging is being lost somehow because it's very clear this isn't that different than the last government shutdown. When you lose an election, when you have some type of leverage, even if the Democrats would pillory the Republicans if they tried to pull the same thing when they were on the outs, they'd pillory them. I just don't understand how it isn't clear that this is fully in the Democrats' lap right now.
Yeah, dude, you're gonna get people mad over TSA agents quitting while we're doing a war in Iran for no fucking reason. Yeah, man, everyone's gonna be like, that war in Iran that's causing oil prices to double. That's nothing compared to TSA funding. Eat shit. Can you imagine if we had a real opposition?
Now, these lines, TSA people not getting paid, everything else, it should be very, very clear. I don't know why it's not hitting home where they're not saying, okay, you're right, uncle. We cannot let this happen to the TSA and to all these travelers. We'll work on the DHS in the way that it's supposed to be done at some future point, but this is unacceptable. And why can't Republicans just spell that out?
Well, I think there's a lot of mouthpieces in the media that will tell a different story, right? And it's hard to push back against that narrative. But if we're honest, what's really happening? Republicans control the House, the Senate, and the White House. But Democrats in the Senate have the ability to shut down Republican movements because of the filibuster rule, right? You need 60 votes to pass a bill. And because Democrats don't get to yes, that bill won't pass, right? If we get into the weeds of how politics works, but then Democrats sit back and go, listen, we're not in the majority. We can't do anything about this. It's Republicans' fault. Well, then that begs the question, do we get rid of the filibuster rule so we can pass good legislation?
Another Mike was right moment. How many Mike was right moments are we going to get? How many? How many? How many? How many? And again, this one is a very important one because I used to be arguing with fucking centrist Democrats. The entire time the Democrats had a trifecta, I was like, we got to get rid of the filibuster because the Republicans are going to get rid of it eventually. So just do it now and pass good bills that make your opportunity of staying in power higher. And I said, it's going to happen. I really like talking about the filibuster, chat. It's one of my favorite topics. Okay, I may have posted too many times about the filibuster. I mean, scrolling through my tweets on the filibuster, we're going to be here forever. But here they are. They're basically just saying, yeah, get rid of the filibuster to pass our laws that we want to pass. After the Democrats allowed themselves to be cucked the entire time they had a trifecta because of the filibuster, now the Republicans are like, yeah, we're going to just get rid of that.
Because to your point, Joe, every single Republican...
Mike, you keep doing this thing where you pretend the Democratic Party are just inept and don't know how to do stuff right, when in reality they're doing exactly what they're elected to do. None punter. Did you mean to type that in the majority report chat? Did you mean to @Sam Cedar? Like, what the fuck are you talking about? That's the opposite of me. I've been saying to Sam Cedar for 6 fucking years that exact point. That's the main difference between me and Sam Cedar, is that I say the Democratic Party is doing exactly what they want to do. They're not inept. That's my whole disagreement with Majority Report. That's our major, like, you know, I like Majority Report a lot. I love Sam Cedar. I love Emma. I love all the guys there. But our main disagreement is on exactly that point. I say the Democratic Party are the Washington Generals to the Republicans' Harlem Globetrotters. And they think that, oh man, there's just some incompetent people in decisions, and they're, you know, we just need to tinker a few people and then it'll be fixed. I'm the person who says, I really wish we would start our own party. That's me. Now, I interact with the Democrats because the rest of you don't agree. The reason why, like, people sometimes get confused. They're like, Mike, don't you think we should start our own party? Like, why are you saying work in the primaries? And why are you supporting this Democrat who's running it? Like, don't you think we should have a third party? Because I operate with reality. I can think something is the right call, and then if it's not pursued, still try to make the next best play. That's just how you should operate in reality. And by the way, the Majority Report is coming in our direction. They're getting radicalized. You know, they're getting radicalized. But they still have some tendencies where they're like, I love John Ossoff and stuff like that, which are, let's just say, incorrect. You have to shit with the ass you have. Exactly. Bad news for H3. H3 has lost so many fans that the few organic ones that remain are having their gifted subs returned after the subathon because YouTube can't find anyone to gift them to. Huh? That just sounds like a bug or something. I feel like they have 2 million subscribers. They could just randomly, or 1 point whatever million, they could just randomly pick someone, right? I watched this whole stream as a non-member. If this was true, I would have received this person's gift. I did not. This guy's name is Fuck Jerry Rice. One of the most legendary, like, this has got to be, I knew it was going to be a Destiny fan. God damn it. I just knew it. I fucking knew it. Gavin Newsom, Dan Saltzman, Destiny, oh my God. So this is one of like Destiny's morbid knowledge. AOC, Jasmine Crockett, Isaiah Simmons. I like the type of person that is a Destiny fan in 2026. Holy shit, man. Okay, don't even start with me. I don't want to know.
Is voting to fund Homeland Security, make sure these TSA lines go away, and every Democrat is voting to keep it shut down and make sure you have mass chaos in your airport. So it's very simple, and how anyone in the media could say something different about what's happening, I think is frustrating, but Republicans have to be better, and I think continue to message why this is happening and that Democrats are using the American people and inflicting pain on the American people for what they think is a political benefit. And I think the way this ends is people get hurt, right? Which is horrible. You don't want, your job is to protect the American people.
Right? Well, no, Secretary, you're talking about the TSA agents who aren't getting paid? Not TSA agents. Or you mean you think that there's going to be a security accident, threat, risk that takes place as a result?
So Senator Slotkin in Michigan was voting to not fund Homeland Security until there was an attack on a synagogue. And little children almost lost their lives because a radical wanted to come in and shoot them because they were Jewish. And after that happened, she decided, oh, maybe I do now want to fund TSA and Homeland Security. So that's what I mean. When we don't know 15 million people who are in the country, we haven't vetted them, and we're in a conflict with Iran, there is a heightened risk. And can bad things happen if you don't fund Homeland Security? They can. I think every single American would say, let's make sure the American people are safe. That's more important than your political fight in Washington, whether it's Senator Slotkin in Michigan or any other Democrat across the country. So I'm not saying TSA or air travel. I'm saying radical elements that have been led into this country by Joe Biden that Donald Trump wants to get out. That is my concern right now.
Just cutting through the politics here, we had Jay Johnson on with us last week. He was in charge of the Department of Homeland Security under President Obama. He came on to talk about how neither side should be allowed to hijack this. Same concerns, same issues, worries about security. Is there a bipartisan solution that gets to the heart of this not being the tool that the Democrats right now are using, that the Republicans have used in the past when they were the minority party? Is there a way to say, we're not going to play that game? This is not going to be a tool that anybody can use when they throw a political temper tantrum.
Yeah, Congress likes using whatever tools they have in the toolkit to get leverage. But, Jay Johnson should recognize the importance of Homeland Security and the fact that we should not take that away from the American people.
He did.
And
I thought he did.
Which is important, yeah. And but then he should also then go the next step to even say, well, Democrats should then fund it, right?
He did.
But Becky,
he basically came out and said that this should never happen, no matter who's in charge and no matter who's in the minority party. That's what I mean. Is there a way to say that we should not be? This is what, the third time that TSA agents have been asked to go without pay in the last year?
That's right. Well, I think the real issue here is but Democrats, what they really want is they want TSA agents to take their masks off, right? TSA agents don't want to wear masks. And by the way, Democrats spent a couple of years during COVID mandating that we all wear masks. Now they want TSA agents to take them off. Well, why is that? They want them to take their masks off so they can dox the TSA agents and not just go after the agent, but go after their spouses, go after their kids, and put political pressure, protest outside their homes. And that's untenable for a law enforcement agent who's just trying to do the good work of the American people.
The good work of the American people, which is ripping families apart because they're brown, and ripping people's visas up because they criticized Israel.
Getting folks who broke our laws out of the country, enforcing our laws. And so, Democrats have suggested body cams. I think President Trump has said he's okay negotiating body cams, and some other requirements that Democrats have asked for the agents. The president, who is a negotiator, is willing to compromise with them.
No, basically what's happening is they're not funding Homeland Security because they want reforms on ICE, and the Republicans refuse to do any reforms on ICE, even the pathetic milquetoast Democrat reforms like giving them more money for body cams. So now he's equating the TSA agents with ICE agents because that's why this shutdown is occurring. But ICE is fully funded. That makes sense?
But there's some things that go too far where we don't want to risk the lives of agents because radical Democrats want to attack them. And I think that's the fundamental point in disagreement right now between the Republicans and Democrats in the Congress.
All right, chat. My new goal, I've got to get Chris onto the stream. I'm reaching out to some of my Philly DSA bros, and I'm going to try to get Chris onto the stream. And once he comes onto my stream, does he follow me already? Can I just reach out to him already? What's his, does he have a Twitter? Oh, it's right here. Okay, he doesn't follow me, which, all right, motherfucker. I'll have to, which is weird. It's okay. Usually left-wing Congress members, congressional candidates follow me, but it's all right. He doesn't seem like he tweets a lot. He tweets a little bit. I'll have to hook him up. I'll figure it out. I want to get him on the stream, and hopefully we can get him on Hassan's stream as well, because he's doing what Kat Abu-Ghazaleh couldn't do, which is first of all, he's already in office. He's been a state rep for 10 years. Okay, so he's already in political office. The second thing is he's uniting all of the left, right? He's uniting all of the left, which is he just got the Working Families Party endorsement. So he's uniting, like, he's not allowing a bunch of progressive orgs to spin off and support some other random person. He's getting the Bernie Sanders left. He's getting the pro-Palestine left. You know, he's retweeting Rashida Tlaib. He's retweeting Democracy Now. He's retweeting The Intercept, Jewish Voice for Peace. Here he is, no war with Iran. I didn't see this. I'm gonna start interacting with his tweets more. I'll help him out. So this is exactly the type of candidate that is going to win. If we could get him the same social media support that Kat got, politically, he's much more grounded in the community. So he's a much better bet. You know, like, instead of having social media clout first and then trying to use that to get in touch with the local community, I think it's better to have deep roots in the local community and good politics first, and then try to get the person's social media clout so they get more attention and money. See what I mean? So he's more like a Zoran than he is, you know, say a Cenk Uygur. All right.
The price of gas in Europe is more than double the level seen before the conflict began. Well, let's now cross live and talk about this country's response to the war. Let's talk to Jose Manuel Alvarez Bueno, the Foreign Minister of Spain. Thank you so much for joining us on the programme, Minister. And can I ask you, first of all, for your reaction to the escalation that we've seen overnight, both with that Israeli attack on the Pars oil field, but also the retaliation and the subsequent rises in those energy prices?
We condemn, of course, all those attacks, both from Israel and from Iran, to those energy facilities. They are incredibly dangerous, both for human life, for the environment, and we are seeing already the tremendous impact on the prices of energy. This is damaging the well-being of our citizens. This is a war on which Europe was neither consulted nor informed, but we are seeing that we are being hit by the consequences. And therefore, as Spain did since the very first day of this unilateral action, we call for de-escalation, we call for diplomacy, and we call for going back to the negotiating table.
Let's talk a little bit about the fact that you just said there Europe hasn't been involved in this war, hasn't known about how it started. But are you surprised that President Trump has said on Truth Social that he knew nothing about the Israeli strike on those oil fields, given that the
So, I mean, Israel attacked Iran first. They assassinated their leader in a surprise attack. They struck their navy. They struck an unarmed Navy ship that was on a friendship cruise to India, right? And they sunk it, and then they abandoned the sailors to drown. They have struck Iranian infrastructure. They struck a girls' school that killed 200 little girls. They're assassinating leaders. They're bombing the country. They did that first. There was no imminent threat. And now they're surprised that the Iranians are counterstriking? Yeah, I saw that, Shep.
Israelis and the Americans have gone into this war together. Did that surprise you, reading that?
I understand that they have different objectives right now in the war, Israel and the United States. But what's important is that those that initiated this war realizes that it's out of control, that we don't see very clear how long this can take, what are the objectives of this war, and it's putting in danger the lives of millions of people, that it has destabilized completely the Middle East. We see places like Lebanon, 1 million displaced people. It's a real shame for humanity, and that the impact for the well-being of everyone on earth is being put in danger, certainly for the well-being of Spaniards and European citizens. And therefore, there is no military solution for the current situation. De-escalation, once again, going back to the negotiating table, that's the only solution. At the end, security never comes only through military force.
There's a hot war happening in Europe right now in Ukraine. President Trump is clearly angry with Europe for not helping along the Strait of Hormuz. How do you keep a president on side insofar as the war in Ukraine is concerned if you don't help him in the Middle East when he needs it?
We were together since the very beginning with the United States in front of the Russian aggression and the Russian invasion in Ukraine. And European Union is bearing right now most of the cost, both financially and in delivering weapons to help the democracy and the freedom of Ukraine. So it was a common decision by Europe and the United States to support freedom, democracy, international law, reject wars of aggression, and the reward of the aggressor in the case of Ukraine. When it comes to Iran and the Middle East, we didn't know anything about it. Everyone in Europe, all the governments in Europe, we started to know about this war when we woke up and we start to see the images in our screens of TV.
What does that tell you about your relationship with the US, that you didn't know anything?
Well, the American administration is being very clear about the transatlantic relation and is telling us that we have to take more burden sharing of our own security. And I think it's the time for Europe to make a leap forward on its sovereignty. Its economic and trade sovereignty, but also its sovereignty in security. That's why Spain is calling for better integrate the industries of defense of Europe and to create a European army, not to replace the national armies, but to create a rapid response force to guarantee our own deterrence. Europe must not be a power to sit at the table of the powerful countries to be a new aggressive power, but to balance, to be a voice of reason, a voice that defends international law, negotiation,
Chep, I saw the
diplomacy,
link. You don't have
but
to link
also
again.
to tell
Please don't.
those that think that war is another way of carrying out its objective in foreign policy that we have our own deterrence, to guarantee that Europe remains a land of peace.
You talk about international law, but you've said in the past that those strikes on Iran violate international law. Are you accusing of the US of acting illegally? And if so, what does that mean for international law? What does international law mean anymore? Many people are asking themselves today.
I think everyone in the world agrees that the unilateral action taken on Iran was a breach of international law. It doesn't fall into the United Nations Charter and principle. But we are still a very vast majority of countries and people around the world that believe in international law, that believes in the principles of the United Nations Charter.
I mean, all those things are meaningless unless you are able and willing to subject yourself to their judgment. And if, you know, the United Nations should have members who don't agree to follow the United Nations Charter, they should be removed. And yet the United States has a veto over the Security Council, even though it doesn't consider itself subject to UN institutions. How's that work? It doesn't.
Because the option to the law, to international law, is the pure use of force. The option to a world order based on predictable rules is the law of the jungle. The strength, only the use of force. And therefore, the option to the world order is the world disorder. And if we start to put disorder everywhere, at the end, we will get to chaos. We are seeing that already today in the Middle East being destabilized, in the human catastrophe that we are seeing everywhere, very clear in Lebanon. We are seeing it with the soaring prices in energy. That's why international law remains the best way to have virtuous relations with all the countries in the planet.
EU leaders are meeting to discuss the conflict today in Brussels. What are they going to be saying?
I think everyone in Europe is clear and very concerned with this war that is not a European war and with the soaring prices of energy. On Monday, we had a Foreign Affairs Council, and it was very clear that we were calling for de-escalation, that Europe doesn't want to get involved in this war, that we know very little. We don't know the objectives. We don't see also a deadline to it. And we really want negotiations and de-escalations to be leading the path in the Middle East.
Spain has been one of the countries to speak out the most strongly against what the US and Israel are doing in Iran. Do you sometimes wish that other countries like the UK?
Well, the United Nations isn't really like a world government. The United Nations, the people that are on the power on the Security Council, permanent members, those are just the winners of World War II. That's what the United Nations Security Council is. It's just the winners of World War II. That's why France is fucking on there. So in order for us to have a system that actually functions, you would need to have all of the nations subject to rules.
Came out also as strongly as you have?
We were the first. We were very clear. We have a coherent foreign policy that says the same thing for the same objectives and for the same principles in Ukraine or in the Middle East or in Greenland. It's to back international law, is to back diplomacy, negotiation, United Nations Charter. And I see that more and more countries start to get into Spain's position. And we are very clear on the respect of international law and also very clear in how the consequences of this war will have an impact in the well-being of all our citizens in Europe.
Do you feel that other countries are scared of President Trump, are scared of the repercussions? Why is Spain not worried?
We are a great partner of the United States. We think that the United States is the historical, natural ally of Europe. Spain and the United States have a very strong trade relationship with a very big surplus for the United States. We are one of the big buyers of gas, LNG gas to the United States. United States uses 2 military bases of Spanish sovereignty, and we have a historical deployment in the eastern flank of Europe, and we were in the NATO mission in Iraq, providing security to the Euro-Atlantic security. We work for that relationship to continue being as strong as it has always been and mutually beneficial for both Spain, Europe, and also the United States. But we have also a coherent foreign policy that sticks to principles, not just for the sake of the principles, not because they are beautiful ideas, because they have provided decades of prosperity, peace, and stability for Europe. And we want the world to continue being like that.
Jose Manuel Alvarez Bueno, the Spanish Minister for Foreign Affairs. It's been really interesting to talk to you. So thank you once again for taking the time to speak to us on BBC News.
Thank you.
These democratic ideals espoused by the post-World War II victors ring hollow when true injustice is even acknowledged. And Germany's MERS will say shit like, yeah, Iran can't possibly call on international law. It doesn't apply to them. Yeah, because they're not white. That's the point. The point of all of these Western institutions is to trash and control the global South. It is not to protect humanity or establish some sort of constant policy that applies to everyone. Because if they did, they wouldn't be able to justify their commercial relations. That's what people don't seem to understand. France would be nothing except for the exploitation they visit on West Africa. Yeah, I know. I saw the H3 shit. Oh, just a tweet. Doesn't really mean anything, but it's all right. Oh, that reminds me. Joe Kent, former director of counterintelligence, says it plainly. Iran did not represent a threat to the United States.
On the verge of getting a nuclear weapon.
No, they weren't, 3 weeks ago when this started, and they weren't in June either.
The president's former top counterterror official is doubling down on claims he made in his resignation letter yesterday, where he argued Iran posed no imminent threat to the United States. Now the administration disputes what Joe Kent is alleging. But as for who had the president's ear before the war began, Kent has said some voices within the administration were shut out from the decision-making.
A good deal of key decision makers were not allowed to come express their opinion to the president. There was robust debate and robust discussions leading up to the 12-day war into Midnight Hammer. But this second round, to me, and I'm sure others will refute this and disagree with me, but what was conducted by just a handful of small of advisors around the president.
Joining me now, former advisor to Vice President Mike Pence and Homeland Security Advisor during Trump's first term, Olivia Troy. She also worked at the National Counterterrorism Center. Also here, former senior communications aide Lindsey Graham and Mike Pompeo, T.W. Origi. Glad to have both of you here. I'll begin with you, Olivia, because you resigned from the first Trump administration. And I wonder if you're surprised by Kent's comments that key decision makers, that's his phrase, could not voice their opinions to Trump.
You know, I found that interesting. I think, to me, this is kind of classic Trump circles, the way it works when you're making important decisions. Sometimes people are in the room, sometimes get excluded out of the room, depending on who's pushing what viewpoint. And what opinion or fallout, viewpoint they want. So to hear someone like that say that on who wasn't in the room when you're making such a critically important decision on whether you're going to engage in conflict, global conflict, to me, that's appalling, because you would think that you would want all the voices in the room to really debate such an issue and inform the president on all of the options and the repercussions of certain actions that you're going to take.
That's the point of a cabinet. Whether he takes the advice is a different story as commander in chief. But I want to play more of what Kent is claiming about whether this indeed was an imminent threat. Listen.
There was no intelligence that said, hey, on whatever day it was, March 1st, the Iranians are going to launch this big sneak attack. They're going to do some kind of a 9/11 Pearl Harbor, et cetera. They're going to attack one of our bases. There was none of that intelligence. Again, back to what we know about the Iranians, they're very, very deliberate with the escalation ladder. And again, they're only deliberate under President Trump's leadership because they knew and they took President Trump very, very seriously.
Do you see this as his claims directly undermining what the administration has said?
I don't know. Look, Joe Kent is a combat veteran. He has earned the right to speak.
He's a combat veteran, so he has the right to speak freely. Who the fuck is this guy? He doesn't know anything. He's a communications guy. Joe Kent was in charge of counterintelligence. He would directly know as part of his job. This guy is a media flack. He doesn't know anything. I mean, what motivation would he have to lie? Giving up a prominent job in the Trump administration and resigning it to say that Trump's entire narrative is not true. What is the advantage? What's he going to be on Tucker Carlson's stream one time? What the fuck is he going to gain from that?
Freely, and he can resign if he wants. That is fine. But as the previous guest pointed out, the Iranian threat has always been imminent. They act on it all the time. And I'm not really sure in the phrase.
So basically, imminent no longer means imminent. Whenever these people talk, I just have this overwhelming surge of just aggressive rage. Because everything they say is it's just designed to be bullshit. And it enters your brain, and when you process it, it's just like, it's bullshit. It's blabbering. It's like someone just going into the microphone. That's the mental equivalent.
Physiology. This is, by the way, a gentleman who advocated for taking out their nuclear sites and their missile depots, who advocated this when he was running for office. But I quarrel with the idea of what does an imminent nuclear threat look like? Are we waiting for the bomb to be on the launcher?
That's what imminent would be. Yes, that's what imminent would be. Imminent would be we have intelligence that they are directing their nuclear forces to ready for an attack. That's what imminent means. Yes, that would be imminent. I think one of the things about a conservative, and this is one of those things that really blows them up, is if you get a dictionary, like the power of a dictionary and a conservative is incredible. Imminent equals about to happen. That's what imminent means.
We decide to take action. The fact of the matter is Steve Witkoff was told directly by the Iranians that they had 1,000 pounds or more, 400 something kilograms of enriched uranium that were a hint away from being able to be put on a weapon, and that they had the inalienable right to enrich uranium. So the fact of the matter is this is a president who has made decisive action to bring Iran to its weakest point, to disrupt its proxies, to bring the Gulf states into a coalition with the Abraham Accords, and to bring the Middle East to a new chapter. This was absolutely the right time to act. And I'm sort of surprised that Joe Kent doesn't have the foresight to see that.
And yet, according to that law, every single day of the Trump administration would have been a day that he could have proclaimed imminence. Even after last year, we were told that it had been obliterated in terms of the ability to have, at least in the short term, to have that nuclear capability. But this idea of having dissenting voices or who could provide alternate information, I don't mean alternate facts, I mean information of the intelligence community. Olivia, I mean, Trump has been quick to dismiss him, saying that he wasn't smart, he wasn't savvy, for not believing that Iran posed a threat. But you'll notice that Kent has been very careful to avoid personally attacking Trump, which I found interesting. Listen.
I think we departed personally on good terms. Again, I'm an adult. I understand the way I left and writing the letter, that there's parts of his administration that are going to have to come after me and try and discredit me. I understand that. But I think the president is someone who listens.
Yet he's just talking about people were not comfortable talking to him about this. I mean, this is something that I think you have a very unique perspective in terms of somebody who has voiced and been vocal about things you disagree with in an administration like this. How do you think the MAGA world will see him in this interview?
Well, you know, I think it's part of serving in the Trump administration. When you have an opposing view and you're worried about voicing it because you're going to be shown the door. I mean, we saw Tulsi Gabbard.
Why do we have nothing but Republicans on CNN now? It's just a Republican and a Republican? Like, that's all we're going to do? It's just Republicans? A reporter asking two separate Republicans. Oops, all Republicans. This is the mainstream media, by the way. Supposed liberal media.
Today, and she purposely skipped over parts of her testimony because she's walking a fine line now. Now she has someone that actually is her direct report, right? In the same building, by the way, NCTC exists with GNI, reporting to her saying there was no imminent threat. And she's trying to figure out how she's going to navigate that dynamic when she's handling the president as the head of the intelligence community. So I also thought it was odd that she would take the line of like, oh, it's up to the president to decide that imminent threat. I'm like, no, it is your job, Tulsi. It is your job. And so I think one question that I have here in this whole situation is the top counterterrorism official in the Trump administration has just left his slot. That slot is vacant now while we are under severe threat from counterterrorism because of Iran. Here domestically, we're seeing it overseas. Americans are under threat overseas because of the actions of this administration that they've decided to take. And so now we have a void in this slot. So I think, while Joe Kent, look, I believe he was unqualified for the position.
What's his motivation here, you think?
So that's what I'm trying to figure out with him. Like, why this moment to speak out other than, okay, two things can be true, right? He's an extremist and qualified for the job, but also it can also be true that there was no imminent threat and he disagrees and felt like he wanted to come out and make this point of view made, like, publicly.
You already hear about cracks within MAGA. You heard someone yesterday saying that MAGA was dead, that the idea of Trump's America First strategy is not in line with his actions taken in this war. And you see this being vocalized. To look ahead for me as a strategist to the midterms and how this plays out, what do you see for Republicans?
Well, 80-something% of Republicans agree with the president's actions. So I think this MAGA thing is completely overblown. Yes, of course, you have the Marjorie Taylor Greens of the world.
Well, okay, because MAGA is just defined as the cult of Trump. And at the moment you disagree with Trump, you're no longer MAGA. So it's a fucking self-referencing group. Like, these people are leaving MAGA, so of course they're not MAGA. Because they're leaving MAGA. MAGA is the group of people that worship Trump and have no thoughts behind their eyes.
And now the Joe Kents who speak out against any intervention in any country, regardless of the threat they pose, that's always going to exist. But the fact that the idea that it's widespread is completely overblown. Look, this is clearly a different administration in terms of their foreign policy viewpoints than the first time around. And heavy is the head that wears the presidency. And the president needs to, just like Jefferson before him and all preceding presidents, have to take the advice of everybody around them, but then finally come to a decision.
Except he didn't take the advice of everybody. He just did something because Israel made him do it, you dumb fuck. God, again, these comms people are not even really human beings, and they really can be dismissed because they have no expertise at anything. And this is just blathering. This is white noise. That's why people don't watch the mainstream media, because they're too smart. It's white noise. It doesn't mean anything. There's no information here. There's no content here. It's apes grunting. There's nothing to be learned. Wow, the Republican flack thinks Republican good. What a surprise. Let's take 10 minutes. That's why buying CNN is so fucking funny. It's so fucking funny because what are you buying? All right, chat, that reminds me, we have, don't forget to download, subscribe, and join the Patreon of the brand new podcast. Do you want more Mike from PA content? Well, I have created the ultimate podcast with my friends Freda and Hugo. We will take deep dives into your favorite reactionary freaks and read them to filth. And I can tell you right now, they're so fucking nervous. They're so scared. So make sure you hit that, scan the QR code right now. Go ahead, hit that follow button, subscribe, listen, recommend it to your friends, recommend it to normies. Hashtag ad. Man, I'm really tired. Oh my God. U.S. weighs military reinforcements as Iran war enters possible new phase. President Donald Trump's administration is considering deploying thousands of U.S. troops to reinforce its operation in the Middle East as U.S. military prepares for the possible next steps in its campaign against Iran. The deployments could provide Trump with additional options as he weighs expanding U.S. operations with the war in Iran well into its third week. They want to secure the strait by deploying U.S. troops to Iran's shoreline. And 4 sources, including 2 U.S. officials. The Trump administration has discussed options to send ground forces to Iran's Karg Island, the hub for 90% of Iran's oil exports. One of the officials said an operation would be very risky as Iran has the ability to reach the island with missiles and drones. The camera broke when I got up again. The fuck? Why is it breaking when I get up? The fuck? Stop just leaving. Crazy. The United States carried out strikes against military targets on the island March 13th, and Trump has threatened to also strike its critical oil infrastructure. However, given its vital role in Iran's economy, controlling the island would be viewed as a better option than destroying it, military experts say. I predicted this. Did I just say this? Did someone try to debate with me like 2 days ago about this, where I was like, they're sending the Marines to invade Karg Island, and people are like, no, they're not. No, they're not. No, they're not. Did someone try to debate with me like 2 days ago? There has been no decision to send ground troops at this time, but President Trump wisely keeps all options at his disposal. The president is focused on achieving the defined objectives of Operation Epic Fury: destroy Iran's ballistic missile capability. They have failed. Annihilate their navy. You sunk a bunch of revenue cutters and one ship that was disarmed, sailing back from a peace conference in India. Great job. Ensure their terrorist proxies cannot destabilize the region. Utter and total and complete failure to do that. And guarantee Iran can never possess a nuclear weapon. Impossible. You've pretty much guaranteed they will possess it. They failed on all 4. I mean, maybe you could say they got their navy. Whoop-de-fucking-do. The United States has carried out 7,800 strikes and damaged 120 vessels. This is how Vietnam sounded. Body count. 13 U.S. troops have been killed so far in the war, and 200 have been wounded. For years, Trump railed against his predecessors for getting involved in conflicts and has vowed to keep the United States out of foreign wars. But more recently, he has refused to rule out the possibility of boots on the ground in Iran. Tulsi Gabbard said Iran's nuclear enrichment program had been obliterated by strikes in June, and the entrance to those underground facilities have been buried and shuttered with cement. They bombed the entrance tunnels? That doesn't mean they obliterated it. It just means they bombed the entrance tunnels. And you could break through cement. You could like what are we doing? What are we doing? One of the sources noted the U.S. military was losing a significant number of forces with the decision to send the USS Gerald R. Ford aircraft carrier to Greece for maintenance after fire on board the vessel. I wonder what would happen if we finished off what left of the Iranian terror state, let the other countries that use it responsible for the so-called strait. Posted on True Social.
Scoreboard! Scoreboard! Oh, what happened to your friend? Hey, I know that guy. I killed him. He cried like a bitch. Vietnam, undefeated.
This is how I feel right now.
On this farm, there is some milk. There is some milk. Because you see, the milk in the cow is all in the barn and the farm on the hill and the milk in the ground.
No place like the White House. Do we agree? Right? No place like the White House. Thank you very much for being here. Right, Mr. Kraft? So, anyway, I learned from you. So I want to thank Pam Bondi, who's been fantastic. I don't know, is Pam here someplace? Oh, hello, Pam. Good. She's been great. And the Speaker of the House got the easiest job of anybody in government. He's got a majority of 2 I don't like to say 1, but between 1, 2, and 3. Get up to 3. You know, every once in a while we get up to 3. Actually, for a period of time, we had it up to 4. And then we had a death. And death is very bad. Death. 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 Horrible death. Death. But we had a death, and then we had another death, and we had some things, and it's between 1, 2, and 3. We had one man who was very ill. It looked like he wasn't going to make it. I don't know. I won't mention his name. Should I? Do other people know his name? Do you want to mention it? He'll be proud. Go ahead. Tell him the son.
Okay. Well, thank you, Mr. President. Congressman Neil Dunn of Florida had some real health challenges, and it was very serious, and had a pretty grim diagnosis. And I mentioned it to the president, and I said, Congressman Dunn is a real champion and a patriot because he's still coming to work. And if others got this diagnosis, they would be apt to go home and retire. And
what was the diagnosis?
It was, I think it was a terminal diagnosis.
He would be dead by June.
Okay, that. Still coming to work, and if others got this diagnosis, they would be apt to go home and retire. And
what was the diagnosis?
It was, I think it was a terminal diagnosis.
He would be dead by June.
Okay, that wasn't public, but yeah, okay, that's
with a heart problem, by the way. This was a heart problem.
So, the long story short, the president called him, and within a number of hours, the man has a new lease on life. He acts like he's 30 years younger, and he walked into the conference meeting, and we thought we'd seen a ghost. And I spoke with him
Mike
over the weekend.
Mike was telling me the story that the other day he came into a meeting for the first time in a long while. Go ahead.
Well, it was incredible. I mean, he has a new lease on life, and we thought we'd seen a ghost. And
he actually called Mike. Mike called me, and he said, "Sir, we're up by 3, but we're going to lose 1 by June." I said, "Who?" Neil Dunn. He's a great congressman. Incredible. He called to say that he was terminal, really bad heart. There's nothing they can do. I said, "That's bad." Number 1, it was bad because I liked him. Number 2, it was bad because I needed his vote. But he really said, "Mike, I'm going to last this out for the president and you. And however long I live," it looks like June is the time, but however long I...
is spending the last moments of his life serving Donald Trump. He's like, I may not be able to see my grandkids, but I'm going to serve you, my lord, my liege. And Donald Trump is like, yeah, okay. Anyway, you got some Oreos for me?
Liv, I'm gonna be voting for you. You have a doctor in the house, please? Doctor? I want to also introduce Susie Wiles, and she announced a...
What does he think doctoring is? I wonder. I think that a lot of people think of doctoring like the same way medieval peasants think of like wizards. What, does a doctor just go and stand next to someone and now they're fine? Do they do healing word? Like what do these peasant-brained morons think it is? They have a healing aura? I wonder.
A minor difficulty, which will be in good shape. Good shape for her. She'll be around for a long time. She has she had a diagnosis, and she's going to take care of it immediately, as opposed to waiting. Do it immediately, because with that particular ailment, the faster the better. That's the only thing I know about it. The faster the better.
Every Republican is going to have all their private medical records just instantly published by Trump for his own amusement. Holy shit, this is amazing.
She's going to do it immediately. So she just started, actually. And she's going to be in great shape. The prognosis there is excellent, beyond excellent. So, but who needs it, right? Who needs it? And just, because I don't want to have a terrible story about this, I did it for him first and for the vote second. But it was a close second, actually. Want to play a song?
In this barn,
there was a stall.
with the prettiest cow
that
you ever did see.
Chad, if you don't know who Victor Verger is, he's a fellow Pennsylvanian a comedic genius and a king. Make sure you go and subscribe to all of his amazing fucking videos. I had a chess video. I watched one of these guys' videos when I was on my phone, and now I'm getting all of them. This guy's got the algorithm on lock. I watched a video about Capablanca. I don't know why. It just popped up and I clicked it. Now I've got all this guy's videos. This guy's got the algorithm on lock. Anyway, all right, everybody. Thank you so much for hanging out with me today. Don't forget, and I mean this, fucking follow the Reaction Podcast. Go to the Patreon and click the free version. I don't care. Just get on there, follow, listen. A lot of effort went into this podcast, so I would really appreciate if all of you would support it. Thank you so much for all of your amazing support. I'm going to send y'all over to Theo. Thank you for all the gifted subs and the support and the resubs. We'll be back tomorrow, Friday. Next week, we're going to have more socialist candidates on the stream. And I will see you all very soon. Free Palestine, no war for oil. Fuck. The list of things is getting longer. Make sure you follow me on all the things. But really, what would really mean a lot to me is the Reaction Podcast. All right, everybody. Stay safe. Solidarity forever. I'll see you tomorrow.